The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hello, this is Zack Sabre Jr., New Japan Cup winner 2018. And you're listening to Keepin It Strong Style with my mates. Enjoy.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frost. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review Power Struggle and cover all this news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/social suplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWworld.com. Frequently updated and with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and share playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, how you doing, man?
We're live, except it's not live. It's a podcast, but to you and me, we're live.
We live. Oh, man. You know, maybe it should be the last time we're live, you know. Apparently, the show it used to be good, but it's not good anymore.
I forgot about that. Yeah, some little punk bitch out there talking shit about the show. I don't even know, where was that?
That was a Apple Podcast review.
Oh, they're Apple user? That makes sense.
Oh, what's wrong with Apple users?
The sheep.
Oh, come on.
Lame ass. You know, I use the Galaxy like a real man. Yeah.
Out in the universe.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. You know, if you listen to the podcast on Apple, like, I don't know. Well,
considering that majority of our listeners are on Apple.
Man, fuck the majority of the listeners.
Oh boy.
Oh man, no. Yeah, somebody said the show used to be good. What's funny is someone said the show used to be good, but now it's not. But they didn't say why. But that's straight. Like, whatever, it doesn't matter. Nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed is, you know, the only thing I could figure is like maybe they're big time Sonata fans or some shit like that, you know.
Yeah. Or maybe
feeling some kind of way about their Boys Tower right now. I don't know.
They love House of Torture.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But what's funny is the person's you know, I don't want to dox them, but it is public info. You can see it, like their name's RK. So, you know, Randall Keith Orton, I know that that's you.
Ricky Knight Jr.
Yeah.
Rick Knox.
One of those two guys, either them or Rick Knox. Like one of those three guys. I know it was one of them. It's probably like Randy Orton. You probably heard us say like, you know, that he would suck if he was in New Japan or something.
Yeah. I had to have to lower our star rate average. Ridiculous.
Oh, did he give us a bad rating too?
Yeah, he gave us a 1 star.
Oh shit. We never had a 1-star show in the entire history of it. Not since day one, my guy.
Yeah, so Apple users, if you're out there, if you haven't left a rating or review, leave a review, leave a rating so, you know, they can know the truth about this show.
Yeah. And this guy does not want to run into you and I because we're real shooters.
Yeah, we'll stretch them.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Good. I got a good show coming up.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff going on this week. I didn't watch most of it, but.
All right. Well, first we got to start off with match of the month, wrestle of the month. So October is over. It's the first episode of November. So for the October match of the month, gonna go with Will Ospreay versus Zack Sabre Jr. from Royal Quest 3. Absolutely incredible matchup from that show. I know a lot of people kind of going back and forth between that and Shingo and Ishii, but I think between cage match, Dave, me, the Ospreay Sabre match was kind of the more highly rated and reviewed out there. Another great chapter in their rivalry.
What was it, that one app that used to exist?
Grapple.
Yeah, according to Grapple, this was.
I miss Grapple. That was such a convenient way for me to log all my star ratings.
Does it still exist? Like, is that stuff there in perpetuity or no?
So I think the app still is there, all your old stuff, but they're just not putting any new stuff on there.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, you know, I heard this match is really great. I might get around to watching it at some point.
It's probably going to be an excursion match of the year contender.
What will?
Actually, that's right. It was a New Japan show. So
yeah, what are you saying?
I was just thinking because it was in the UK, but it was not Rev Pro show. It was a New Japan show.
New Japan show.
So it will probably be a match of the year contender.
Kind of racist what you just did there.
Then for the wrestlers of the month, gonna go with Catch 22, Francesco Akira, and TJP. These guys had a great Super Junior Tag League tournament. They consistently had some of the better matches from the whole tournament and tour. Again, looking at cage match, my ratings, some other reviews. Catch 22 was kind of the highly talked about team throughout the tournament.
Nice. Catch 22 back in full effect.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about Power Struggle. Before we get there, just going to run through what happened leading into Power Struggle. We had the conclusion of the tournament action for Super Junior Tag League. So we'll kind of run through these results and get to Power Struggle. So night 7 of the tour, we had Great Bash Heel defeating Bolton Oleg, Oscar Lobe, and Yuto Nakashima. Ren Narita and Shota Umino defeating Callum Newman and Great Okan. Ishii, Yano, and Yoshihashi defeating Dick Togo, Evil, and Yujiro. And then we got the tournament action. So Musashi and Yo defeated Taguchi and DKC, which brought Musashi and Yo up to 6, leaving Taguchi and DKC at 4. Then we had Bushi and Titan defeating Doki and Taka. So Bushi and Titan got up to 8 points there. Then we had the Jet Setters defeating Ichiban Sweet Boys. So Jet Setters got up to 8 points there. And then the semi-main event, we had Sho and Kanemaru defeating the champs, Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney, which brought House of Torture up to 10 points. And then the main event, Catch 22 defeating Desperado and Master Wato, a big comeback win there for Catch 22, and they got up to 8 points with that match. And then night 8, we had Cal Newman, Great Okan, Hanare defeating Narita, Umino, and Hanma. Then we had Hiromu and Tsuji defeating Gato and Taiji, Ishimori. Then we had Ishii, Yano, and Yoshihashi defeating Dick Togo, Evil, and Yujiro. Then tournament action, we had the champs, the War Dogs. They defeated Taguchi and DKC until they got up to 10 points. Then we had Bushi and Titan defeating Kosei Fujita and Robbie Eagles. So Bushi and Titan got up to 10 points there. Jet Setters defeating Musashi and Yo. They also got up to 10 points. And then in the semi-main, El Desperado, Master Wato defeated Doki and Taka. So they got up to 12 points there. And then in the main event, Catch 2-2 defeated Sho and Kanemaru to get to 10 points. So that took us to the final tournament night action here. So the openers, we had Hiromu and Yota Tsuji defeating Gedo and Ishimori. Okada and Ishii and Tanahashi defeating Dick Togo, Evil, and Yujiro. Oleg Bolton, Oscar Loibe, Ren Narita, and Shota Umino defeating Callum Newman, Great Okan, Jeff Cobb, and Will Ospreay. And then tournament action, we had Doki and Taka defeating Taguchi and DKC. So Doki and Taka got up to 4 points to tie with Taguchi and DKC. Then we had Musashi and Yo playing spoiler here. They defeated Bushi and Teton, and these guys came out with the whole crew, Shingo, Naito, and Tsuji. Hiromu was on commentary, but all support did not help them there. Musashi and Yo got the win there. Then we had Ichiban Sweet Boys defeating the War Dogs in 3 minutes and 33 seconds. Quick roll-up pin there by our good friend Robbie Eagles, which brought the Ichiban Sweet Boys up to 8. Playing spoiler there for the War Dogs. And then semi-main event, Catch 2-2 defeated their old rivals, the Jet Setters. So Catch 2-2 got up to 12 points. And then the main event, House of Torture, were able to defeat El Desperado and Master Wato, which brought them up to 12. So we had 3 teams ending with 12, but Catch 2-2 and House of Torture defeated Desperado and Wato. So that put them into the finals.
So I'm looking over Cage Match here just to kind of see. Obviously, I didn't watch these 3 nights, but just trying to kind of get a view of like what the overall reception was. It doesn't seem like there was anything stand out from any of those 3 nights whatsoever. More so just like tournament forwarding stuff.
Yeah, I think the best match from these nights, so night 9, I would say Catch 2-2 and Jet Setters was the best match of that night. Night 8, it would be Despy and Wato versus Doki and Taka was probably the best match of that night. And then night 7, it would have been Catch 2-2 against Despy and Wato.
But nothing that you'd say go out of your way and watch this.
No. I mean, if you missed it, you missed it. I mean, a lot of the Catch 2-2 stuff was close to 4 stars, but it wasn't really necessary to really watch it. They kind of laid out the final scenario, and we kind of pretty much talked about it last week too, of all these teams that were close in points, and that we pretty much nailed it that those teams were going to all be getting to 6-3, 5-4, until we ended Catch 2-2, House of Torture, Despy, and Wato. All 3 of those teams 6-3, 12 points, but with the tiebreakers, Catch 2 and House of Torture go to the finals, and we had the War Dogs, Jet Setters, and LIJ all ending with 10 points, and then Ichiban Sweet Boys and Yo and Musashi 8 points, and then Taguchi, DKC, Doki, and Taka ending with 4 points.
Yeah, last week I think I was a little bit too starstruck by the glamour team of Despa Wato. And I just thought that they were going to clinch a berth into the finals. But once I saw it all play out and the finals team ended up being Catch 2-2 and House of Torture, that kind of made a little bit more sense from a storyline perspective because of the fact that the War Dogs are the champions, and then you got Drilla Maloney and his connection to his defection from the United Empire kind of sets up Catch 2-2 as like a really good foil to them. And then conversely, you've got House of Torture being the subunit in Bullet Club, and kind of the tension that exists there between the War Dogs and the House of Torture. I did see some people talking about that online. Did something happen between these 2 teams? I saw people saying that sides were drawn and Gato made his choice, but I didn't know what was going. I don't know. I didn't watch it, so
I mean that they wrestled each other in the tournament, but it wasn't like anything that we haven't seen before, like when these guys wrestle in G1 or anything else. It wasn't like there was the
Shinihan freaks got me. They got me. But that kind of makes more sense when you think about the storyline implications that could exist with those 2 teams versus Despowato, kind of just going through to the final. So I inaccurately predicted their berth into the finals. We wound up with Catch 2-2 and House of Torture.
Yeah, and I accurately predicted Catch 2-2's path to the finals, and spoiler alert, capturing the trophies. It told a good story there of them kind of being beaten down at the beginning of the tournament and then coming back here towards the end. And plus, they have not been able to beat the champs, the War Dogs. They're 0-2 against the War Dogs. So it was a whole good story that they were telling, really building those guys up and setting up the third match between them and the War Dogs.
Nice. Well, this was a long, arduous tournament, but we got through it together. And we're all better for it, having watched it all now.
So after that, there was a power struggle press conference. A lot of comments from Will Ospreay catching a lot of people's attention. And we had a question here from Barry Walsh. He says, so with Will saying to Umino, you need to beat me. You aren't Omega, not Okada, not Takagi, not Jericho, not Marufuji. You are Shota Umino. You have to fight. You have to beat me. Otherwise, I do not feel safe leaving NJPW in your hands. Is that pretty much confirmation he's gone? I have felt for a while he was going, but it is pretty much confirmation. If it is AEW he ends up in, are you worried or apathetic to the idea of the United Empire being in both companies like Bullet Club, or should Cobb turn on Will and take the belt on his way out and take over the faction?
Wow. A lot to unload there. First, I just want to say Will Ospreay's promo at that press conference was incredible. And this is a guy that's kind of knocked it out of the park on the mic many times. And, for a long time, Will Ospreay was sort of regarded as just a flippy-do, type wrestler who couldn't really, do anything on the stick. But he's one of the best promos in wrestling today at this point.
Yeah, he's been incredible.
As far as, whether that's confirmation or not, I think it's not a secret whatsoever that his contract is coming up and that there's going to be, something is going to happen, whether it's him staying in New Japan or whether it's him signing elsewhere. And, they're making that very clear on commentary. He's talking about it in the press. It's not really a secret at this point, but I've said it on this show for quite a while now. I feel very, very strongly that Will Ospreay is not staying in this company. And it's something that, I can't say I've got official confirmation, but I've heard basically something to that effect from numerous people that would know, whether or not he intended to stay or not. I just don't think he's staying in New Japan at all.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for weeks and weeks now. And yeah, all the tea leaves are kind of coming together. You're seeing the interviews. He's talking about AEW. He's talking about WWE. He's talking about Impact, TNA. So I think it's very clear that
MLW.
Hey, the world never stops.
Is he talking about the NWA?
If he wants to blow cocaine on the CW, maybe that's an option.
No, did you hear they're not going to CW, bro?
I know, because of the cocaine angle from the pay-per-view.
so bad. That's so stupid. Oh my god. Anyways.
But yeah, and so I think come February 2024, once his contract's up, he's not going to be a full-time New Japan wrestler. I don't know exactly where he's going to go on, but I think most...
PWG.
I think AEW probably makes the most sense, and with that, he'll probably do some one-off New Japan appearances, but as of right now, I really don't expect him to be a full-time New Japan guy next year.
Well, this is what I would say. As far as New Japan's concerned, and this is something I talked with Rich, shout out to Rich from One Nation Radio, earlier today about. When it comes to New Japan, I'm not privy to what anybody makes in this company, but we have some kind of vague ideas of the pay ranges and who's what and where and blah, blah, blah. And I would assume and imagine that the highest paid guy in the company is very likely Okada. Mm-hmm. And I'm imagining that Ospreay is probably a tier below that in terms of pay. You'd probably guess that's probably a likely scenario. Mm-hmm. So if one of his big motivations is to secure the future of his family, he's getting older and he's trying to make as much money as he can to, ensure a secure future. The only thing that New Japan could probably do is bump him up to a comparable pay rate to what Okada is making. I'm assuming that that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to pay him that kind of money, and let's be clear here, that's very likely, it's probably very good money, but it's very likely less money than what he would probably have on the table from both WWE and AEW. But let's just presume he loves the company. He doesn't actually want to leave. This is where he wants to stay. First off, New Japan would have to agree to pay him that money. And then once they pay him that money, they would need to push him like a guy that's making that kind of money.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is they have never, ever, ever in the history of the company pushed anybody like that. That was a foreigner, an outsider, a gaijin. I mean, the highest of heights that you could probably point to would be like Hulk Hogan in the 80s and Vader in the 90s. And neither of them were ever the man in the company. You know, they were like the monster foreign heel who crossed over and became a big star. I don't think that they have intentions as a domestic Japanese company to, you know, there's a ceiling. They're not looking to push outsiders as the top attraction, as the ace of the company, you know. And it's the same reason that Kenny left, and it's the same reason that Jay White left, and
AJ Styles
and you know, now Will's leaving, because there is a ceiling, and it's professional as well as monetary, and it's just the fact of the matter. The only way I could see it even being something where he would be, you know, justified to stay is if they pushed him as the world champion and they made him the top guy. And I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah, I think right now, like you said, it's way more about the quote unquote push. It's about the money. He has a stepson now. It's about securing his future. And you know, WWE with their new TV deals, and you know the AEW TV deal is you know, pending negotiations. Like, there's going to be a lot of money. Like, New Japan cannot counter offer the kind of deal that AEW and WWE are going to offer Will.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're even going to try, to be honest with you. And the one thing I do know, and I've heard this, you know, from reliable sources, they've known for quite a while that Will, you know, is looking to make a move, you know, and they know that his contract's coming up, so it's not a secret. Like, this isn't some big surprise. You know, they've kind of known that this is coming for a while. Yeah. And I think that, again, I have to point back to him beating Okada in the G1 the way he did and everything. That just feels very much like that's a payoff to the story without building it up too big, without them getting Kenny Omega'd again, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's a lot of fans out there that would love the idea that he's going to stay, and like they're sort of like telling themselves that this isn't it, that he isn't actually leaving. But I mean, all the tea leaves do point to the very likelihood that he's not staying.
Yeah. And as far as his question about United Empire, I mean, you could have them be in both promotions, but I think for the betterment, probably of United Empire, you probably just want a standalone New Japan leader, and it might mainly be New Japan.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they do, though, just because they've already done that with Bullet Club. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
I mean, with Aussie Open, they still consider them United Empire, and they're full-time AW. So,
So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happened whatsoever. But I mean, you know, one thing too is he mentioned, should Cobb turn on him and take the belt on his way out? Well, I guess we're going to get to that a little bit later on, but you know, the status of the belt, what the belt will be, who will be holding it come the end of January 4th, that's all very much, you know, up in the air. But I could potentially see a scenario where at the end of January 4th, he's still the champion and he leaves the company and go, especially if he is signing with AEW, who's a partner. I could see them repeating history like they did last year with Kenny Omega.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Power Struggle show here. Big show here from Osaka Edion Arena. I think we had about 4,000 people here for the show. So it kicked off with the Frontier Zone match. So we had Bolton Oleg, Ryusuke Taguchi, and the DKC defeating the Dragon Gate team of Mochizuki Jr., Strong Machine J, and Yoshiki Kato, 6 minutes and 40 seconds.
Not much to talk about here. I mean, I guess it was a cool, bit of exposure for some of these younger Dragon Gate guys, and it, gave some experience to Oleg Bolton. I feel like that's what most of the match was about, was just kind of highlighting and showcasing Oleg Bolton more so than anything else.
And Strong Machine J's breakdancing skills.
Yeah, he's a better breakdancing wrestler than Booker T.
Yes.
But he'll never be as over as Booker T because he can't get a bunch of white people to raise the roof. Yo, I'm not going to lie. Like, Booker T has become, like, kind of an idiot in recent years. But, bro, 1997, Booker T fucking rules.
Yes, Harlem Heat, fire exploding, raising the roof.
Bro, actually, 2000 Booker T got me back into WCW in their dying days. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Master of the bookend.
The bookend. Save the drama for your mama.
So then after that, main card opened up. We had the United Empire team of Callum Newman and Jeff Cobb defeating Oscar Loibe and Yuto Nakashima, 4 minutes and 41 seconds.
Man, Oscar Loibe, he's looking jacked.
I know, right?
Yeah, he's putting on some muscle. Just a cool showcase match. The Young Lions obviously were going to take the fall here. They did some cool stuff. Got to see some big power exchanges between Nakashima and Jeff Cobb. But, really the story here was Cobb powering and lifting both guys and throwing them around, and Callum Newman doing his high-flying, high-speed offense.
Yeah. Pretty short matchup here. Yeah, Cobb hits the Tour of the Islands on Loibe to get the pin. Interesting thing from Charlton on commentary mentioning the dojo is very crowded, and that Nakashima and Loibe are probably trying to get on excursion and try and get out of the system, and because there's a ton of young lions that are kind of nipping at them and trying to get their spot on the tour. We did see some new young lions by ringside. They were unnamed during the tag league tour. Apparently the dojo's packed, and Nakashima and Loibe will probably be on excursion pretty soon.
And I guess we would be remiss if we didn't mention this is the first major show called by Walker Stewart and Chris Charlton together.
Yeah. Since you mentioned real quick, what have you been thinking about Walker's commentary?
So I've got somewhat mixed feelings. Overall, I would say mostly positive things. I think that Walker sounds very professional. I'm kind of almost having to get used to it a little bit. It's definitely a transition because I think Kevin Kelly's call is sort of similar to how baseball commentary is done, Mm-hmm. Whereas Walker Stewart sounds more like your classical commentating voice. I don't want to say it's fake, but it's very refined and very polished and silky smooth, which is good. Those are all good things. It's just not what I'm used to when I'm listening to English commentary for New Japan. So I'm having to kind of adjust, but it could be a lot worse. There's a lot of terrible commentators out there in wrestling, and he's not one of them. I felt like as the show progressed, I kind of felt like the chemistry between him and Chris was slowly developing, but it's still early goings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's quite a few things that if you're very tuned into the commentary, you can tell he's not as familiar with all the backstories. He's not as familiar with all the signature moves and finishing move names, that sort of stuff. But I think he's making an effort because he made a key point to definitely, push the things that he does know, and he did a good job of that. I just think it's going to take some time to for him to sort of adjust to everything. And then there, like, some of the playful banter, it was kind of funny. Like, there's certain times where Chris would like throw out like a quip, and like he was not taking the bait. Like, Walker Stewart was like, all right, let's move on. And I was like, oh, this guy's all business. What did you think? How do you feel like it's going?
I think he's great. The first call I heard was the U.S. show. What was the last U.S. show that just happened? Fighting Spirit Unleashed. Him and Veda Scott, I thought they were a great team, and I thought he did really good there. And then, this show, I thought he was great as well. Like, his voice is just super professional. Sounds like he's been commentating for like 20 years. I think there's, like you mentioned, he needs to continue to like learn the roster. He needs to learn the moves, some of the backstory, some of the characters, which I think over time he will learn here. He seems very dedicated to wanting to learn the stuff. He wants to, do a lot of stuff on the English side and really kind of help grow the English, production of New Japan. And based off of this show and Fighting Spirit Unleashed, I thought he was great.
Yeah, I think it's good. The only things that, like, the only two things aside from what I've mentioned that I would say, for me, just as a fan, that I'd like to see a little bit more of is like, and again, this is something that's going to develop over time. Kevin, and not that he needs to be Kevin or anything like that, but like with Kevin, there's like these certain moments where like he finds the right time to place like emphasis on a call. Like, there's certain calls like that you just remember where like Kevin like hammers it home, like when something major is happening and you're like, damn, that feels epic. But like with Walker, everything is like sort of like smooth, but it's always the same. You know what I mean? So far, and granted, it's just one show, but like, I didn't feel like for instance, the main event, Incredible, I didn't feel like his call on that match rose to another level as opposed to the rest of the show. It was all kind of the same all throughout. And I feel like there needs to be a little bit of like a dynamicism to the call. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, obviously very good, but very consistent throughout. And
exactly.
But yeah, when you get to the epic heights of Umino and Ospreay, I think, there definitely could have been like maybe a step up from what he was doing. But I think having a Charlton there was good. I thought Chris did an excellent job, really, in a lot of those big moments.
And you know what? There are a lot of fans out there that don't like Kevin Kelly's style of commentary. They didn't like him shouting out podcasts and YouTubers, and they didn't like him, doing funny gag meme jokes and stuff like that. I'm not one of them, but I've seen the complaints online. So this might be something that appeals more to a general populace. I don't know, but he's very good.
So moving on to the next matchup, we had El Desperado and Master Wato defeating the Bullet Club War Dogs, Ichiban Sweet Boys, and Musashi and Yo in a 4-way match, 5 minutes and 36 seconds.
Yeah, very interesting. When the match started, they made an announcement to clarify what the specific rule set was going to be for the match. And, I'm sort of one of those people where I'm always like, what is the rule of a fatal 4-way tag team match going to be? Like, is it going to be 2 guys in and they have to tag, or is it going to be 4 guys in and they have to tag their own partners? But in this case, they're like, we're just going to do Texas Tornado style and everybody is legal. I'm like, that's going to be pretty chaotic. And it wasn't really that chaotic. Like, they kind of just worked it like a regular tag match, just like at the end of the tag match when the referee stops paying attention and lets everybody do what they want to do. Yeah.
Almost a little bit of Lucha rules where it was kind of like 1 in, 1 out. And yeah, I thought it was paced well. I mean, it was only a 5-minute matchup. So
I think the main thing is everyone was sort of wondering, with the War Dogs being the reigning champions, like, were they on the chopping block here to take a pinfall loss and maybe set up a future challenger of some sort, or were they going to pick up a win to make them look a little bit stronger coming out of the tournament since they didn't win it? But ultimately, it turned out that the match wasn't about them at all.
yeah, I mean, based on what happened later on tonight, maybe they should have won. But yeah, Desby and Wato getting the win here. They were the third place team in the tournament. They were the mega team. So win here gave Desby some momentum for what he was going to be involved in later on the show. So yeah, towards the end, Robbie Eagles, he had the Ron Miller special on Musashi. But when he was doing that, Desperado was able to roll up Fujita to get the pin.
Yeah. And prior to the match, Wato, and I assume this is part of the story, like Wato has merch that's like a graphic tee, and it has a picture of him and Desperado on it. And it seemed to me, just kind of inferring that all throughout the tour, Desperado would not wear or accept the shirt. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's what I mentioned last week. That was the shirt that Wato was trying to get Despi to wear the whole tour.
But I don't remember everything you say every week, Jeremy. It's a 3-hour show. No, but prior to the match, when they're making their entrance, he presented the shirt to Desperado again, and he didn't put it on, but he did accept it, and he kind of wore it as like a sash on his tights as he came out. So they were like, that's pretty much the closest thing you're going to get to acceptance from Desperado for Wato. And they did a loose, fist bump. So they've kind of established that these guys, Desperado no longer hates Wato with every fiber of his being any longer.
Yeah. So following that, we then had the intergalactic jet setters Kevin Knight and Kushida teaming up with Tama Tonga to defeat the LIJ team of Bushi, Shingo Takagi, and Teton. 10 minutes and 55 seconds.
Yeah, I was hoping that this match was going to further some sort of really important, maybe like CMLL storyline between the jet setters and Bushi and Teton, because I knew if it went the other way what that meant, and it went the other way. So we're not going to be seeing Kushida and Kevin Knight work Arena Mexico on Fridays. Instead, we're going to get Shingo and Tama Tonga again.
Yeah, so Tama hits the gun stun on Bushi, picks up the win there. Then post match, he grabbed the title, and Shingo's looking around for his belt, and Tama has give me another shot. He's like, I gave you a shot. Show some respect. Give me a shot. So it seems like we are setting up for Shingo and Tama at some point. Shingo is defending this Friday against Trent Beretta, Lonestar Shootout. So we'll see what happens after that. I'm assuming either World Tag League Finals or maybe it's the Wrestle Kingdom match. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I did think that their interactions with one another in the match were very good. And, based on what people have said, the match they had when Shingo, won the title was also very good. But I'm just not personally that excited at the prospect of another Tama Tonga Shingo match. I was hoping Shingo would kind of move off and, fight somebody else.
Yeah. And we had some questions here. Les Commission 7252 says, after he goes through Trent at Lone Star Shootout, do you guys think the never openweight championship match between Shingo and Tama should happen at Wrestle Kingdom or at the World Tag League Finals? If it does happen at the finals, then that will open up new options to who should win World Tag League if we don't end up with the LIJ team of Yota and Shingo.
Why would that affect that? Who wins the World Tag League?
I guess he's thinking, so if they sign, so after Lone Star Shootout, they sign Shingo and Tama for the World Tag League Finals, would the committee not put Shingo and Tsuji together since Shingo would already have a title match scheduled on the final day?
Okay, I forgot that was even... I forgot. Okay, no, that's a good point. I personally, I think this match is very likely going to be at Wrestle Kingdom.
Which I don't get why they even did the first match of Fighting Spirit Unleashed. Like, if this was going to be your big match, why not just save it first time match at Wrestle Kingdom?
The other thing too is like earlier when it was like the never champ, could Shingo and Tsuji win World Tag League even though he's the never champion? And I said it was possible, but now that they're lining up, you know, these feuds for him and everything, it kind of puts their entire World Tag League into very doubtful territory. I don't think they're going to win it now.
Yeah, I mean, they might not even be in it depending on when this title match happens.
Yeah, they might not even be a team that's in it. Yeah, that's correct. Maybe it'll be like, I don't know. Who could it even be?
Maybe they call up Terrible from Mexico again. Remember he teamed
call up Cavernario.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Question.
Send Roosh.
Yeah. MJ's PR says Tsuji and Shingo aren't tagging anymore. What's more likely to happen, a new LIJ member or Tsuji tagging with someone outside of LIJ?
It does seem weird that they like kind of gave us that tease at the end of the other tour where it seemed like they were going to be tagging. You know what I mean? Well,
this tour too, there were several undercard stuff where they were teaming together. They were hitting the pumping blaster.
I don't know. Maybe Shingo pulled double duty that night.
Yeah, he could.
I don't know.
So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I mean, maybe like you're saying, if they have it at Wrestle Kingdom, then they can put Tsuji and Shingo in, and they probably just won't win.
I think that they will. Yeah, I think that's a likely scenario. They end up in tag league together. They just don't win it.
Next matchup here, we had Tetsuya Naito and Yota Tsuji defeating the team of Sonata and Yuya Uemura, 11 minutes and 10 seconds.
Yeah, I noticed Sonata not wearing the sequin robe. What are we doing, bro?
You know, that's been his thing. If it's not a big match, he's not coming out with the robe.
It's no Saka show. What the fuck?
He's like, I'm in a tag match on undercard.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. To build your match at January 4th at Wrestle Kingdom in the Tokyo Dome against Tetsuya Naito. Oh man. I thought commentary did a great job building the backstory and the motivations of Naito and Sonata and everything like that. I was kind of perplexed at Tsuji's D-Generation X style jersey he's wearing.
Yeah, I wonder what does the number 16 mean?
I don't know. He played football though, I think, right?
Yeah, I think he did, yeah.
Maybe that was his number.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a match where I was like, yeah, somebody's like clearly gonna lose here, and Uemura had to do the job. So
yeah, well, the whole tour, anytime they faced off, there was the 20-minute time limit draw. They had a time limit draw at Fighting Spirit Unleashed, so they were teasing that this match actually got 10 extra minutes on the time limit. It went to 30 instead of 20. So, but they didn't get even close to that. Tsuji ends up hitting the Gene Blaster and pins Uemura in 11 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I guess that kind of just tells us where we're at with Tsuji and Uemura. I almost had to like kind of recall, like, I was like, were they like the same class? Are they the two guys that were linked together? And I'm like, yeah, they were.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Tsuji Uemura.
Mm-hmm.
But like it at this point, it's like hard for me to. We've had so many guys go and leave and everything. I'm like, oh yeah, they're like totally linked to each other.
Yeah.
And Tsuji's way above him right now.
Yeah, Gene Blast, baby.
And then threw him out of the ring afterwards, added insult to injury.
Mm-hmm. We had a question here from the Dark Soldier. He says, I'm not trying to be a dick here or a Sonata fanboy, but I feel you guys put him down way harder than you should. Sure, Sonata should have shown some more fire in many places. There's only so much silent charisma can get you before it's just an excuse of a lack of charisma. But New Japan didn't help out Sonata one bit. He was the third, if not fourth, most important guy in LIJ. Then suddenly he's thrust into the main event. Sure, he beats Okada cleanly, but then he gets a bunch of, let's be real here, weak challengers. I love Hiromu, but he's a junior, which makes the match finish obvious. Then Tsuji, who's a recently returned young lion, and the match had no build. Then Evil, who was evil. Need I say more on that? Sonata was given mid-carders to wrestle against when a world champion should be wrestling mostly main event guys. He got nothing of the sort, and a champion can only be as strong as his challengers. And when you criticize Sonata, I feel like you're letting your preconceived notions cloud your judgment on the poor guy. Had Sonata been given proper challengers, we could have had a stronger run.
Well, I appreciate the question and the comments for sure. Let's be real here. Especially, Dark Soldier, you're a longtime listener, so you would know better than anybody. We gave Sonata the benefit of the doubt time and time and time and time again. And it really wasn't until after the G1 that we started to be like, maybe this thing's not working.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of other pundits and podcasters were out on Sonata being world champion like day one. Like he won the belt and everybody was like, this is trash. This is a horrible idea. And like, we were like, oh, this is surprising. Let's try it. Like the match with Okada was good. It was a kind of a surprise win there. I was like, all right, let's see how it does. The Tsuji match was good. The Hiromu match. And so like the start of the title reign was good. But then, you roll in post Dominion, you get into G1. And then at post G1, it's just like been rough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. Some of the creative and some of the booking surrounding Sonata has been perplexing. At the same time, it takes two to tango. There's a lot that this guy just, doesn't do that or that he should be doing that is also mind-boggling,
Yeah.
He doesn't do any favors for himself.
Yeah.
Like,
what?
Well, one thing I was going to say is and this is obviously not quite the same thing, but let's take Tsuji for an example. Tsuji hasn't had the greatest booking. Obviously, he's not the world champion, but he hasn't had the greatest booking since he came back to the company. He's been given some opportunities and he's had some great matches, but by and large, he's mostly lost. And he's not any worse for the wear whatsoever. In fact, he's probably more over and a bigger star today than he was when he first returned because the guy fucking gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Sonata's a guy that just doesn't fucking get it. And he's not drawing well. He's not doing good business. And the matches are lackluster. And I feel like those 2 week challengers that you mentioned, Hiromu and Tsuji, gave him two of his best matches of the year. It wasn't until he stepped in with all the green guys in the G1 and then he stepped in there with Jungle Boy where it was like very damning that it's like no juice.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's it. Like he's a great wrestler. He's probably a great tag team guy. I had high hopes for what he could be this year, but the dude's got no juice.
Yeah, and I think a knock on him that we've been saying from day one is he's a guy that will wrestle up to the level of who he's in there with. He's not a guy that can elevate somebody. And I feel like as a world champion, as a main event guy, you should be able to elevate whoever you're in the ring with. It shouldn't matter. So what? They give you mid-carders. You elevate that mid-card to the next level. What has Will Ospreay been doing all year? Well, Ospreay was in there, Tsuji, this match with Umino we'll talk about. Like, Ospreay goes in there with mid-card guys, and they come out, and we're like, oh my gosh, like, he just created a main eventer. When has Sonata done that?
I mean, you look at like 1995, 1996 WWF, what the fuck were Sean and Brett doing? They were, turning chicken shit into chicken salad. Like they were making it work and getting guys over and having classics. And like Sonata's just not doing that. Like, and it is weird because when he's not wrestling and he's sort of his real life persona with the suits and everything, like he comes off like a star, but when he goes out there to wrestle, like it just doesn't translate. And unfortunately, I think he's less over with the crowds as the champion and less over with the crowds than he was when he was in LIJ. And again, I think it goes back to my illusion last week when I mentioned rugged Ronnie Garvin. Ronnie Garvin was one of the most popular guys in Jim Crockett promotions for years and years and years. One of the top most popular mid-card guys. But the moment they put the belt on him and they pulled the trigger, people were like, what? Stop. And they did not believe in him as champion. And part of that is the promotion's fault, but it's also the fact that you either are championship caliber material or you're not. Mm-hmm. And I think, unfortunately, Sonata's just not. And the reality is, and I'm going to say this is the reality. This past year, Will Ospreay should have been the number one guy in the company. He should have been the world champion, and he should have been the person that they pushed as the top act in the entire company. They didn't do that, and they missed a huge opportunity by not doing that.
Yeah, even with him leaving, I think having him as the world champion all year would have been great, and you could have really put somebody over, beating him for the world title in Tokyo Dome. I think that they definitely missed the ball there.
I do understand. I do commend them for doing something new, fresh, and exciting. And I would have loved for this, for this to have worked out better, because I was very optimistic. Some of that audio from the early part of the year has me embarrassed, because I'm very rarely this wrong about the direction of the company. And I was really in on the idea of Sonata becoming a top star, maybe not the tip top guy, but in the mix after this is over. And I don't think he will be. I think he's going to lose at the Tokyo Dome. And then I think he's going to descend back down to upper mid-card guy, someone that never touches the title ever again.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very, like his former tag partner. It's going to be very evil. Like, he's going to drop back down into the mid-card, and then maybe every once in a while they'll pull him back up for a title match. But I have a hard time seeing him win the title back after he drops it.
I kind of feel like Umino being brought back, and granted, I haven't seen anything of his return, but just from judging from this one match, I feel like Umino was kind of disserviced being part of Just Five Guys, and Tsuji was elevated by being part of LIJ. Yeah. Because Umino is underneath Sonata, and Sonata is a guy that's not being seen by, and this isn't just like the smarky podcaster's opinion. Listen to the crowds when he's wrestling, or there is nothing to hear. They're not reacting to him, and he's not drawing money. That's the problem. Like, the people are not passionate about him whatsoever. That's the big issue.
Yeah.
And I feel like bringing Umino in underneath him is not helping Umino necessarily. And I also feel like, this past year, I feel like Taichi kind of got, put on the back burner by being underneath Sonata this year.
Yeah, he did. I mean, the whole storyline to get him in was all Taichi pushing him to get there, and then, I think there's more that could have been done with Taichi as well. Yeah. Yeah.
This year felt like a big year of keep away when it comes to Will Ospreay and the world title, and that it does.
Yeah, I mean, Will didn't even challenge for the title once.
It's weird. It felt like when they did the same thing with Kenny, when he was off in his own, red belt universe for a while before he finally, got another title shot at Okada. But, and he was off doing the Golden Lovers thing. I don't know. It's just
Cody.
It's weird.
Yeah. So following that, we had kind of where the meat of the show really kicked off here. So we had the Rebel David Finlay defeating Tangaloa, 12 minutes and 33 seconds.
I saw some pretty bad reviews for this match. I thought it was pretty good. Maybe not great, but considering what the output from Tangaloa in the G1 this past year and what we've seen from him in singles matches, I thought this was a lot better than anyone could probably hope or expect for. For a sub 15-minute match, they went out there, they brawled on the outside. It was very physical. The crowd, they got good reaction from them, and it didn't overstay its welcome. And it wasn't, something that I was bored with. I thought they just had a very physical fight. I thought it was pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I thought this match accomplished what it needed to. It was following up from the Royal Quest angle, Tangaloa pinning Finlay there. And then, it really, this whole point of this match was to get Finlay over and to make him look like a killer and, as a potential title challenger. And that's what we did here. He went after the injured knee of Tangaloa, who he just came back from that surgically repaired knee, so he was going after that. And yeah, they were brawling over. He jumped Tangaloa from the opening of the bell, and they brawled throughout. And yeah, just kind of very vicious and taking it to Tangaloa. But yeah, he did have some shine. He hit the 619. He did a missile drop kick. He was flying all over the place. Finlay eventually hit him with the Oblivion, the neck breaker on the knee to get the win.
But let's not forget to mention that he did use the shillelagh before he used the Oblivion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which that was the one part of the match that was kind of like, to me, I don't like when guys use an outside move, like a foreign object, but then hit their finisher. You know what I mean? Because that's Triple H'ism.
Yeah.
Right? That's like, I'm going to get the heat by using this illegal move, but then I'm going to show that I'm dominant by hitting my finisher so that, I get the heat, but I'm also beating you clean, quote unquote. I'm like, if you're going to just cheat, just take the win, be a Tully Blanchard. Don't be a Triple H. like my dog Logan Paul from Riyadh in Crown Jewel. Yeah.
So fine matchup. Finlay gets the win there. That takes us to the next matchup. We had Great Okan taking on John Moxley. So match started, these guys, wild brawl, all through up and down the crowd. The ref is counting. They hit the 20 count, and they call double count out. Fans are booing.
And we move on to the never openweight 6-man tag team title match. Very disappointing. Only a minute of action between these two guys. Double count out. Maybe we'll see something from them down the line.
No, that was not the case. That would have been sad if it was. But yeah, the crowd was booing. Not happy. Moxley and O'Connor still trying to fight each other. Then Moxley grabs a microphone. He's like, I'm not leaving until I get a piece of you. Let's.
That's not what he said. He said, I'm not leaving until I get a piece of your ass. I was like, whoa, yo.
There are kids in Osaka. But yeah, so Moxley then challenges them to a Falls Count Anywhere matchup. So yeah, they ring the bell and they go on to run it, and they are just brawling all through up and down the arena, throwing themselves into the chairs, moving fans out the way. Of course, Moxley gets busted open, and then at one point they kind of start like doing some like shoot style wrestling on the outside, and they're like exchanging holes in the middle of the chairs and stuff like that. It's kind of this wild, crazy brawl.
When that was going on, I was kind of thinking to myself, like, Okan is sort of like a perfect opponent for Moxley in a way that I hadn't really thought about prior to this match happening, because like Okan's really adept at, the ground game and grappling and everything like that. But then he's also got the wild man side where he can do the brawling and fighting through the crowd. And that wasn't something I kind of thought about before this match happened.
Yeah, I thought, it was a great kind of styles blend there. A lot of crazy spots. There's one spot where Moxley pushed Okan off the ramp, and he flew off the ramp into Yuto Nakashima down to the floor. He got the scissors out. He cut Great Okan's ponytail. This is despicable.
Yeah, I thought this match was really great and very, very entertaining and very fast, very fast paced, high octane, very violent. I at one point thought that I thought this was going to be like one of the first New Japan proper matches where they didn't just brawl in the crowd. I thought they were going to go backstage and fight outside. Like that's the kind of vibe it had. This was very, you see one crowd brawl, you've seen them all. And anytime you watch, for instance, WWE, it's a very sanitized version of the crowd brawl. Maybe it's a little more visceral in AEW, but in Japan, they kind of let them do whatever the fuck they want. And this is very much Terry Funk and McFoley sort of status. They were getting getting thrown into the chairs and using all the props and fighting all over the building. And like you said, they were doing the submission stuff on the ground. Like this was very different for like a street fight, falls count anywhere type match. And that's another thing too. I've got this weird gripe. I don't like, for instance, like in WWE, they got like 7 different names all for the same match. It's all, the street fight, the hardcore match, the extreme rules, like these are all this, no holds barred.
Yeah.
They're all the same shit. Like it's the same match. They just call them different things depending on what marketing they want to do.
Yeah.
I like when a match that has a stipulation has a different feel to it. And this one was falls count anywhere. So it wasn't your garbage, they're going to go and get all the plunder and throw it into the ring and do all the, plunder spots that you come to expect. And they didn't do a death match. They did a true blue falls count anywhere match where they just fought through the building in cool and inventive ways. I like this. I thought this was very good.
Yeah, it wasn't about the weapons. It was about, all right, we're literally having our match all over the arena. So yeah, several pinfalls and stuff towards the outside, and even the finish here was on the outside. Moxley hits the Death Rider, and then he puts on a rear naked choke. And Marty Osama, he calls for the bell. Okan was out, and so yeah, the finish was on the outside. And so yeah, I thought this was a really great kind of innovative way to do the falls count anywhere. Kind of a break up in the card there. Nice little change of pace in the card. And yeah, I thought Okan did a great job here keeping up with Moxley. Let's see, do we have any questions here? Yeah, we had a question here from MJ Does PR. He says, is Okan ready?
What does that mean? Ready for what? Did you copy the whole question?
Yeah, that's what all he said. Is Okan ready? I guess maybe is he ready for more? Ready for a push?
I thought the match was good. I didn't think that this was a match that like elevated him or made, like, this wasn't like, quote unquote star making performance. Like, he lost again. This guy just stays losing. And I am wondering, like, what's next? Like, is he not going to be somebody that the company like entrusts to push higher up the card, like many out there had said was the case? Or does he kind of need to pivot and find his own niche within the company? Is he going to become the brawling through the crowd guy? Does he need to find some sort of space like that for himself? Because right now he does not seem like somebody that's going to be a top of the card main attraction type of star.
Yeah, it seems like he's kind of getting lapped by the guys coming back from excursion. Tsuji, Umino, Umura, Narita, all these guys are being kind of getting pushed ahead of him. So, I mean, I think Okan has a lot of great skills and tools, and he's a guy I feel like could be pushed more. And we've been saying for a long time now, like, when's the push going to happen? What are they doing with this guy? And for whatever reason, they just like to put him in spots like this and then beat him. So yeah, who knows? Maybe next year with Ospreay leaving, that would open up some room for him to get elevated up in the United Empire and up in the company.
I saw somebody somewhere call him the king of the special singles match. It's pretty funny.
So after that, we had the never open weight 6-man tag team title match. The champions, Kazuchika Okada, Tomohiro Ishii, and Hiroshi Tanahashi defeated the TMDK team of Mad Mikey Nichols, Hysterical Shane Hayes, and the front man, Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, I thought that Robbie Eagles on commentary doing his best Don Callis / Bobby Heenan impression for this match was very good. This match was awesome. Very, very work rate, high paced. These guys really got down to it. My favorite exchanges in the match were the exchanges in the opening and then later on in the middle of the match between Zack Sabre Jr. and Tomohiro Ishii. Like, those guys at this point, they've got so much chemistry with one another.
Yeah, that was great.
But, at one point the match felt very even, and then it kind of felt like, you know, what do I call Tanahashi, Ishii, and Okada? Like, what do I call this team? I need a shorthand name for them.
Pitbull Aces, Stone Aces.
So only those two. Oh, okay. The Mega Aces. I get it. I'm gonna call them the Super Friends. I don't know. Some shit. But anyways, because I want to call them the Chaos Team, but like Tanahashi's not Chaos. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
And anyways, the never open weights, the champions, they started to, it almost felt like they were on the verge to a pretty quick victory at one point. And we got to a section of the match where Zack Sabre Jr. is laid out. He got hit with the sling blade. Tanahashi goes up top. He goes for the high fly flow and he misses. And from that point on, like, he starts playing Ricky Morton, and the Team DK team is just running roughshod over the champions. And, Robbie's talking about how, they're a real team and those guys are just individuals, teamed up, and it's not the same thing. And he's like, once they lose the titles, they'll never team again.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And the Team DK, they did all their like big signature moves on everybody.
Throwing out tank busters left and right. Sabre was doing like European clutches, all the roll ups on Tanahashi. They were getting. I thought there was like one of those clutch near falls. Like, oh, he got him.
There was a bunch of very close clutch near falls on Ishii that there was 3 in a row that looked really, really convincing. Like Zach had him tied up, but the match just kept going. And then down the stretch, they did the thing that New Japan loves to do in these tag matches where everybody comes in and they're hitting all their signatures, boom, 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 and everyone's flying. And then eventually it winds up just being like Zach and Tanahashi. And you think like Zach's pretty much, Tanahashi is looking rough at the end of this match. He's been beat up. He's been in there for a long time. And at one point it looked like Zach was getting ready to defeat him. And Tanahashi finds the will to get a crazy small package, and he pins him with a 1, 2, 3, and they retain their titles, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and then post match, Tanahashi was pointing to Zack Sabre's World TV title, so it seems like they are setting up Tanahashi eventually challenging Zack for the NJPW World TV title, potentially at Wrestle Kingdom.
Well, these guys are the 6-man tag team champions, and you kind of had to wonder, 3 big high-profile names like that, is it feasible or even likely that they might team together at Wrestle Kingdom? And I did think that could maybe be the case, but, in the post-match, we found out for sure that's not happening. Like, Okada has a date for that night, and now it seems like Ishii and Tanahashi are going to need to find something to do as well.
Yeah, so after the Tanahashi Zack conversation, we got lights went out. We got another video from the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. Big old eye patch on his eye, calling out Okada, talking, you broke my arm, you broke my face, and now I'm coming for revenge. I'm challenging you for Wrestle Kingdom. And Okada accepts. And so it's official, Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada 2. And according to Sports Illustrated, it was reported that the original plan was for Danielson to appear live at Power Struggle, but he was unable to fly due to the broken orbital bone that he suffered in the match with Andrade on Collision on October 21st.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but this was a very cool, video package and sets up the match. I especially liked that Okada, he's giving his response and he's cutting the promo in Japanese, and then at the end of it, he's like, "My answer is," and he points in the air and he goes, "Yes." I'm like, this dude is so unserious all the time.
Mm-hmm. And Brian had a good line. He says, "I'm gonna break your arm so you can never do a Rainmaker again."
Yeah, I liked that.
And the Osaka crowd, they did a lot of yes chants as well. So the Japanese audience very excited for Bryan Danielson to come to Japan again. I think it'll be the first time in like 19 years since Bryan's been in a New Japan ring in Japan. So that should be a great rematch there, January 4th.
Yeah, I looked to see the other day, had he ever worked the Tokyo Dome, and it looks like he's had, I don't recall exactly, but I think it was 3, or I think more likely 4 tag team, like junior tag team matches in the Dome. But he's never had a singles match. He's never like main evented or anything like that. And obviously that was in the early phase of his career, like 2003, 2004, something like that. So yeah, this easily going to be the biggest match of Brian's career in Japan.
Mm-hmm. And we had a question from Def Triangle 720. Would it be a mistake to have Tana versus Zach at the Dome instead of a young talent to fight Zach for the TV title?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it personally. I mean, I've seen a lot of Zach and Tanahashi matches over the years. They've got great chemistry. I enjoy their matches, but I don't know if, I mean, like, of course, I want to see Tanahashi in some sort of prominent position, just for nostalgia's sake. It's the Dome. He's the ace, blah, blah, blah. But I think I would like to see Zach defend the title. I mean, we talked about it last week. I felt like Ren Narita sort of made the most sense, and maybe that could still happen. But right now, it's kind of feeling like it's going to be Tanahashi.
Yeah, Zach is defending the title on Friday against Speedball Mike Bailey, but I'm pretty sure he's going to retain there.
Because that kid's a joke.
So yeah, it does seem like, what's Tanahashi going to do with the Dome? Last year they kind of stuck him in that 6-man tag with Muto, and so it seems like they're trying to find ways to put him in big spots, but not having him have to go out there and have the classic 40-minute Tanahashi Tokyo Dome match. So it could be a good idea. You stick him in this 15-minute TV title match. It's a big match with Zach, but it's a limited time limit, so you're not going to expect to get the big classic from him. So maybe that's the role you go. But I do agree that for the whole purpose of the title, it would be better, if some young guy finally stepped up and was able to beat Zach.
At the same time, it would suck if Tanahashi's the guy that gets the rub from beating Zach after this very long, historic title reign. But they love to use Tanahashi as a transitional champion. We've seen him do it with the IC belt. We've seen him do it with the US belt. We've seen him do it with the Never belt. Like, we see him do it with the world title the last time he won it.
Yeah.
Like, he is the quintessential transitional champion in New Japan these days. And so even if he does beat Zach, they could easily have Tanahashi turn around and lose to a Ren Narita or a Tsuji or a Yui Moore or whatever.
Yeah, New Year's Dash, open challenge. One of the young guys comes out, smokes him.
New beginning, whatever. And they will benefit from having his scalp on their head, as a claimant or whatever. So, but I'd rather see Ren Narita and Zach.
Yeah. So then
also light work for Tanahashi that night. Sub 15-minute match, huh?
Might mess around, get a quick roll up 5 minutes in. Next matchup here, we had the Super Junior Tag League 2023 final matchup. Catch 2-2, Francesco Akira and TJP defeated the House of Torture team of Sho and Yoshinobu Kanemaru to win the tag league and become the 2023 Super Junior Tag League winners.
Going back to the point that I made earlier in the show, how there are the story elements at play with these two teams in relation to the champions, the War Dogs. As the match was playing out, I noticed that the story that you had mentioned last week was rearing its head again, where TJP has the neck issues and it's becoming a hindrance throughout the match. And I just was like, they got to win at this point because it's House of Torture, and like, who the fuck wants to see House of Torture in the Tokyo Dome?
Yeah. I was a little bit worried though, because they had already beaten House of Torture in the tournament. So I was like, oh crap. Like,
and then, they never did really pay off the Drill and Maloney. In fact, I don't even remember what happened between Catch 2-2 and War Dogs. Were they the champions and War Dogs beat them for the titles?
Yeah, they beat them for the titles at the Independence Day show
Okay.
July 4th or 5th, whenever one of those shows, and then they face off again here in the tag league, and they lost, so they're 0-2 against War Dogs.
It's been a long year. I'm trying to recall everything that happened. So yeah, they've never gotten their comeuppance to Drill Maloney for attacking them back then and then taking their titles. So I love the idea that they're going to be the ones that win this and everything like that. The match was fine. I thought everybody worked pretty hard. There was a lot of House of Torture shenanigans, but they set up a save where Jeff Cobb and Callum Newman came in and made a big save and got those guys out of there. But ultimately Catch 22, defied the odds and they prevailed and they picked up the win here. It was okay. It was fine.
Yeah, it was fine. It accomplished what it needed to do. It had Catch 22 kind of being the underdog babyfaces, which I think has been good for their run. They were so dominant as champions, and most of their run as champions, they were heels. And since they lost the belts, they've been faces. And so, they've kind of made them, go through some trials, come from behind. And so they persevered this tournament. They persevered in this matchup here. They did a different variation of their finisher. Usually, one person hitting the knee from the front, one hitting from the back, but they both hit it from the front as a unified team. In front hit the knee, the 2-2, and once again Akira being the one to pick up the pin for the team. So they got the win. They got their winged trophies. They were all celebrating, and then the champs came out, Drilla and Clark, and jumped them and attacked them and set the stage for Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, they attacked them. They defiled the trophies. They talked a bunch of shit. And then at the very end, it looked like they were going to try to permanently injure TJP and put him out of the sport forever. But, United Empire members came down and made the save and prevented that from happening. But, these guys, these War Dogs, they're nasty, man. They don't give a fuck about nothing.
We had a question from Barry Walsh. Is there a case to be made that Catch 22 are the best tag team out there, not just the best junior team?
In New Japan, they might be right now, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like tag team wrestling as a whole is kind of a down across the board. Like, I can't even really think of any tag team that's really stood out this year.
In terms of that had a obviously the three names that come to my mind immediately in terms of being good tag teams would be FTR, the Young Bucks, and Aussie Open. Obviously, they're all in AEW at this point. Mm-hmm. In New Japan this year, I mean, I don't know. Bishamon was having a very good year.
Yeah, until Goto got hurt. Yeah,
and I would say them and Catch 22 are probably the two best tag teams in New Japan this year, most likely.
Yeah, Catch 22 is definitely going to get a vote from me on one of my 3 votes for tag team of the year in our year-end awards. And yeah, I think they're a great team. I do think they're a little bit underrated because I don't think a lot of people are giving them the attention they deserve. But yeah, I think it would be cool to see them get a big tag match at Forbidden Door so people can really see just how great these guys are. So moving on to the next matchup here, we had the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title match. The champion Hiromu Takahashi defeats the challenger, the Bone Soldier Taiji Ishimori, 20 minutes and 38 seconds.
Yeah, it's funny with Hiromu and Taiji Ishimori because we've seen them wrestle each other quite a few times. And the first time they ever wrestled, they had what many people consider to be one of the greatest junior, not even just junior matches, one of the greatest matches ever. But especially for the junior division, it's a legendary match. I'm not as high on it as other folks are, but it's this high benchmark that they've just never, ever, ever been able to reach ever again. And then after that match, you sort of have 2 matches they have. You have the match that under delivers and it's nowhere near where it should be based on their talents. And then they have the type of match that over delivers and it's nowhere near that high benchmark, but it's somewhere in the middle and it's pretty good. And I felt like this match, along with like the match they had with each other at Wrestle Kingdom a couple years ago in the pandemic, are sort of the latter. Like very, very good, probably better than what I was expecting. Not like out of this world great, but very good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm about like 4 stars on this matchup.
Yeah.
You know, they had to start off with a very fast pace, a lot of quick exchanges at the beginning. Then kind of the normal story of their match, Ishimori's attacking, the shoulder and arm of Hiromu to set up for the bone lock. And then Hiromu's, fighting from underneath, trying to, use his size to outmuscle Ishimori. But yeah, it was a really good matchup.
I thought Ishimori really pushed the pace and worked a more like energetic and frantic style this time around than he normally has been lately. And dude came back fucking shredded, all tanned up with the white gear. I think that if you are a title challenger, this just for me, it's a general rule. I think if you're a title challenger and you wear white gear, you should not be losing the match. If you know you're losing the match, don't break out the fucking white gear. Like the white gear should only be reserved for title wins. It's a law. Everybody knows it. But I thought Ishimori was actually the better of the two in this match, which I can't recall if I've ever thought that in any of their matches. So I thought both guys were great, but Ishimori was working his ass off that night.
Yeah, like you mentioned, he looked fresh in the all white gear. He had the contact, like the blue eye contacts in. Yeah, kind of picking up the pace there. And he had several points when he was trying to cheat to win. There was a call back to him pinning Hiromu backstage for the DT 24/7 Iron Man Championship. He hit a low blow in a Gato clutch. It was the same way how he pinned Hiromu backstage. That was a near fall of about 16 minutes in. Then they hit their closing stretch, and Hiromu escapes a bone lock, and then he's eventually able to hit the Hiromu roll. So there's a closing sequence there where exchange pinfall, and he does the Hiromu roll twice, and the second one sticks, and he pins Hiromu, or he pins Ishimori.
I thought that finish was I chuckled because I found it kind of humorous, but I thought it was a great finish because of the fact that his arm was compromised all throughout the match. So he didn't quite have the strength to execute properly his various different moves. I am getting confused about what moves are what when it comes to Hiromu, because he's got the Dynamite Plunger, the Time Bomb 1.5, and the Time Bomb 2, and they all kind of look fucking the same. So it's weird. But anyways, because he didn't have the upper body strength to continuously go to the well and spam those moves, he had to sort of rely on his technical prowess, and he was able to get the Hiromu roll. And it sort of plays into the story that these two guys have had with one another, and that DDT title where he got rolled up backstage by Ishimori, so he was able to kind of return the favor here.
Yeah. Then post-match, he grabs a mic and he calls out El Desperado and challenges him for a match at Wrestle Kingdom for the junior title. Desby accepts, says he needs to get some surgery done, but will be healed and back in time for Wrestle Kingdom. So we're getting another Hiromu versus Desby Tokyo Dome matchup.
Yeah, and apparently this is the first time that Hiromu actually wore the title belt around his waist, because when he won the title, it was at Wrestle Kingdom last year in a 4-way match where Ishimori was the champion, but he didn't beat Ishimori in that match. So up till now, he's felt kind of a little bit like he didn't deserve to wear the belt because he never actually beat the champion. But now that he has this win over Ishimori, he feels, confident to wear the belt. And then I liked when before he made the announcement that he was going to face Desperado, he's like, I know what you guys are waiting for. This is usually the time where someone comes out or the lights go black or a video plays. He's like, just let me say what I want to say before you try to do that.
Yeah, that was
funny. I don't know that don't get me wrong. I think Desperado and Hiromu are a defining feud and have fantastic matches with each other. So I do get it, but I don't know that I'm that excited for them again at the Tokyo Dome just 2 years later when, and the release just Hiromu calling him out to be the challenger. I'm not sure I get it.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird booking, especially since, Despy has kind of been stuck in this tag team with Wato, and then he was doing the whole best of 7 series. Like, there was no kind of like signature wins to really kind of like ramp up or build him up to be like, oh yeah, he's potentially going to challenge. And maybe that's was done by design. Maybe they wanted to kind of surprise, that this match was happening. But yeah, it does seem kind of weird that they're going back to this matchup.
I mean, I maybe sometimes wrestling doesn't have to be overcomplicated, and it's just by the matter of fact that they're the top 2 stars in the company and it's Wrestle Kingdom. They want to put on a great show and have a marketable match. That's probably what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I'm like loving the idea that like Hiromu just was like, I want to fight Despy at the Dome, and that's just what's happening. I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like maybe there could have been a better way to get there. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. We have a question for MJSPR. What do you think of Hiromu challenging Despy for Wrestle Kingdom rather than having someone else come out to challenge? Did you think it was going to be Leo?
I did not. I didn't think anything.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Leo Rush is on a break for right now. So yeah, I was not expecting Leo. I mean, I was expecting somebody to come out and set something up. I didn't expect Hiromu to be the one to lay out a challenge. Like we said, like at the end of the day, it'll be fine. They'll probably have a great match. But I would have liked probably either a new challenger or something fresh that we haven't seen before.
Well, what would that be? I mean, Hiromu's beat everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, bring somebody from the outside in or find a younger junior guy that needs to get pushed. I don't know.
I'm fine with it being them. It's just here's what I didn't like last time is they had a couple. So they had the match at the Tokyo Dome, but leading up to that, prior to that, they'd had 2 super epic, like top end matches that were like legendary. And then it was like, they're going to do the blow off at the Tokyo Dome. They're going to get a lot of time. And they didn't get a lot of time. And it felt like the match got rushed and it didn't play that much into the 2 previous matches that it felt like were leading to that one. And they kind of got shortchanged. The match was still very good, but it was nowhere near as good as the 2 prior to it. So now here we are again, and it's 2 years later. We've already seen this match at the Tokyo Dome before. And the last time Desperado won. So now, and he was supposed to kind of have been solidified as like the guy. But here we are again. It's Hiromu in the Dome for the junior title again, facing a guy that he's already faced in the Tokyo Dome before. And last time they kind of got shortchanged. They weren't given the platform to do what we know they could do. And I'm wondering if they're going to be given, the time to do what they could do, or is it going to be something that falls a little bit short because their time's going to get cut because it's Wrestle Kingdom and everyone's got to get their shit in.
Yeah, and we're already seeing some matches announced already, and it looks like it's going to be, a big stack card like it is every year. So it will be interesting to see how much time they do end up getting.
And Sonata Naito's going 45. Not including entrances and post match, just pure match time.
Well, speaking of 40-minute matches, let's talk about this main event, the IWGP United States and United Kingdom heavyweight title match. The champion Will Ospreay defends and defeats the roughneck Shota Umino 40 minutes and 16 seconds.
Yeah, I had seen a lot of varying feedback about this match, kind of all over the place. I saw the cage match scoring. Full transparency, I didn't watch this show till today. I had a crazy weekend, so I finally got around to watching it today. And I'd seen like some people say it was very good, but getting too much praise, like 4.25. Seen some people saying this was an easy match of the year contender, maybe the match of the year. I saw what you had to say about it, Jeremy, which, spoiler alert, Jeremy's very high on the match. And then I went to cage match and I saw all sorts of like I mean, it's got a really high score, but I saw people going like 4-7 and like, saying that it went too long. They didn't have enough stuff to fill it, blah, blah, blah. So I was like kind of going into this match. And plus, I think that all the matches they've had together have been very good, but I have never been blown away by Shota Umino and Will Ospreay as a pairing.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of kind of had this lower expectation, like how good could this actually be? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And especially like, you don't want to, sometimes I don't want to psych myself out when I see something with a really, like, for instance, I did this last night. I went to watch this movie called When Evil Lurks because I heard people saying it was the best horror movie of the year and it had a 99 on Rotten Tomatoes and all this shit. And I watched it and I wasn't really that impressed. I didn't love the movie. It wasn't my cup of tea. It was okay. And I was disappointed by the end of the night. And so I kind of went into this match, like I'm seeing like a 9.55 cage match. That's super fucking high. Like how good could this be? Bro, they tore the house down. They tore the motherfucking house down and they put on a really, really, really classic match. It's hard to say because Will Ospreay's had such a high end year this year,
Mm-hmm.
but like I feel like it's got to be like a top 3, top 4 match that he's had this year. Like just kind of, and it's not that far off really from the Kenny Omega matches. The work was so crisp in the early portions, and everything like that, and then they're flying all over the place on the outside, lots of aerial moves. But everything like has, because the 3 previous matches, there's a lot of history that they're playing off of. They're playing into all that. But one thing I loved is like Umino just really seemed to break out of his shell in this match. Like he was showing a lot of fire. His facials were on point. Like he was in this match. Like he was living the moment with Ospreay. This was not a case like the other matches they've had. I would say it was a case where they were great matches where Ospreay was guiding him, leading him, and elevating him to a higher level. This felt like he was on Ospreay's level all throughout the match. And then it got violent on the outside. Like there's, or even on the inside, like the Chickenando kicks where Ospreay's kicking him in the fucking face and
breaks
his
his
nose
nose.
starts bleeding.
Yeah.
He like, I don't know if he broke his nose, but they just said on commentary, like he broke his nose. And like, you believe it because his mouth is bleeding, his nose is bleeding. And like, from there, he just got fired up and like he's bashing Will and Will's bashing him. And Chris Charlton was really great on the commentary team here, talking about, the history with them and everything like that, and kind of painting the picture. And then in the middle of the match, you get to this point where Will is just hitting him with so many forearms, and it goes
it's a callback, to the Royal. What's that, Royal Quest?
I don't even remember. Maybe it was. I think it was Power Struggle last year, wasn't it?
No, it was a UK show. It was before Umino came back from excursion. It was the match where Red Shoes was reffing, and Will was throwing the elbows, and Red Shoes called it.
Yeah, and they did that spot, and it became very clear that like he was close to calling it. And then Will he's in the full mount, and he does this thing where he grabs his arms and he traps them underneath him, which like from like an actual practical standpoint, it's much easier to be bucked off of somebody from like a jiu-jitsu standpoint, but whatever, it looked cool because he looks trapped. And he starts hitting him like with no protection and everything like that. And then later on, the tables get turned and Umino is able to get back at him and is able to do the same thing to him. And like Red Shoes almost stops the match on Ospreay and gives him a 10 count. And they're trading each other's moves. Like this match it fucking blew me away. Like,
yeah, dude, this
blew me away.
This match was incredible. Like I was like audibly like gasping, jumping up and down. Like I was so into this match. It's so much crazy stuff. The Tiger Driver spot through both tables. I literally,
that was awesome.
Like yelled out loud when he did that. Like that was nuts. Umino did this like crazy DDT thing to Will on the apron. There's just so many.
I loved when he was on the outside and he threw Will Ospreay into the chairs, and like I thought the stuff that they did on the outside rivaled what we saw from the Finlay match. It rivaled what we saw from the Mox match. Like, and there's one point where Will just gets thrust into the fucking chairs and he makes them explode. He goes through like 5 or 6 rows of chairs. I'm like, holy shit, like that was crazy.
Yeah.
And then he brings Will over to the table. He's like, oh, you want table?
Yeah.
Bah!
Bam. You want
like,
table?
He's like, you want table? Bah! He's like, how about more table? Bah! And I'm like, dude, who is this guy? This Shota Umino. He's cheeky, man. Like he's got an edge to him. Like I like this.
Yeah. There was a great counter of the Oscar. He did a drop kick when Ospreay was going for the Oscar. That was great. Man, also all the big signature spots. Ospreay did a great the leap of faith corkscrew for a near fall on the inside. But man, yeah, there's going back and forth. So many great stuff. Countering of the hitting blades, that was great. And man, there was just so many times where I thought Umino was going to get him. He kept kicking out. He kept getting all these near falls, and there was the one Death Rider near fall where Will just barely got his foot on the rope. I was like, damn, man. Like, I thought Shota had it.
It wasn't even just a Death Rider. It was a top rope Death Rider.
That's right. Yeah. The Avalanche Death Rider, yeah.
Yeah, it was an Avalanche Death Rider. That's what... Okay, so I do have 2 small gripes to make, and they are small, but they were things I did not like about the match. One, I didn't like how many times Shota Umino hit him with the Death Rider and different variants of the Death Rider, but still wasn't able to beat him, because at this point it makes me feel like the move is ineffective for him. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's part of the story. Maybe it means that he should look into
getting his own
using a different move altogether, like something his own. Which, speaking of which, we forgot to mention like that Jon Moxley came out in the middle of the match when Will was doing the arm trapped forearms from the full mount, and he was the one, like it looked like Umino was about to get knocked out and get stopped, and he comes out, he starts banging on the mat.
Come on, shooter!
He's like, come on, shooter. He's like, don't you fucking give up. and then he like powers out, like, and I'm like, oh my God, this is great. So that was the one thing. I didn't like how many variants of that move he hit without being able to beat him. And the one other thing, and this is something that is a problem. Will Ospreay has fucking killed the Tiger Driver, bro. It is no longer, because the whole entire premise was that it was supposed to be a super finisher, something that he could only pull out for the big moment to beat somebody that he couldn't beat with his normal moves. But now he's just using it in every single match, and everybody that he hits with it is kicking out.
Yeah.
So it's no longer a super finisher at all. It's just a signature move, which I don't love that, because the whole idea of it. Now, granted, I will say he's landing it safely. So I have the only time I ever criticized it was when he landed it unsafely the first time on Kenny Omega. Since then, every time he's landed it, he's done it perfectly fine. So I'm cool with it. Not that it matters if I am, but just from a fan perspective, I don't see a problem. But everyone is kicking out of it. So it's no longer the Storm Driver 93 or whatever. Like it's just a fucking move that he does.
Yeah.
And it's kind of dumb.
But I did pop when Umino kicked out. I was like, oh my gosh, like he kicked out the Storm Driver. Like, is he gonna?
Yeah, Umino kicked out of it, but like Mike Bailey just kicked out of it like last week.
Yeah.
and literally everyone he's hit with it is kicked out. I think he beat like Leon Slater with it, and that was it.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a crazy near fall. But I do agree that if it like, make up your mind, is it a super finisher or not?
I think it's just one of those things where like he hit it in the match, and it got all the buzz, and he didn't anticipate like for it to take off like that. But now he's like, oh, they love when I do the fucking Tiger Driver. Let's do the fucking Tiger Driver. It's a big match. Just gonna throw it in there. I loved that Umino, when he had him draped in the corner, Umino hit him with the fucking V trigger.
Yeah.
Not that it was like an actual allusion to Kenny, but I was like, he landed it and I was like, V trigger.
Yeah, man, this match was just blow away, incredible, great. I'm throwing 5 on it. Just incredible stuff.
I'm like very torn. I'm very torn because I don't know if I can go the full 5, but like I'm pretty close. I definitely think it's one of the best matches of the year. It's up there. Like, let me just say this, and I guess we'll talk about it later. But like, last week the recommended match of the week was Mike Bailey versus Will Ospreay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dave gave that shit 5 1/4. I don't think it's anywhere near that. But like, I have to think, like, if Dave gave that 5 1/4, he's got to go like 6 1/4 on this match. Like, he's got to go super high or something. You know what I mean? Like, because this is a totally different league from that match.
Yeah, and I saw Dave tweet. He was like, "Yeah, the Umino Ospreay match was incredible." So I'm like, "Oh yeah, he's definitely he's going above 5 for this match."
He's gonna break the scale again. Oh man, but the match is really incredible, and like what I love about it is how there's so many story elements tied in from their feud with one another. Some matches that are very, like in New Japan, when you watch like a 40-minute match, sometimes it can feel very long, or it feels like the stuff they're doing in the beginning doesn't have any real meaning, or that it's not leading to anything. I feel like almost everything they did in this match had a reason it was happening. And I don't want to say this in a derogatory way, but I mean this as a compliment. It kind of reminded me of, like, remember when you'd watch those NXT women's matches and you're like, damn, they, like, someone helped them with this shit. Like, it's laid out so well.
Yeah.
That's what this was like. I'm like, this match is laid out so fucking well. Like, the pacing, the timing, the selling, the violence, the physicality, the high flying, like everything is on point. The storytelling, like there's like one point where Umino was hurt and he gets hook kicked and his face is bleeding. He gets hook kicked again. And I was like, for the fans that want storytelling and, they think that the drama is, community theater, like, why won't you stay down? Like shit like that. Like, this is the storytelling that I like. This is what I love about pro wrestling. Like, when guys go out there and they're like literally like putting their hearts and souls on the line. Like, this is the epitome of fighting spirit, is what we saw in this match. I'm blown away. Like, easily the best match of Shota Umino's career, and another drop in the bucket for Ospreay.
Yeah, and even more drama you throw in there. Red Shoes, his dad's the referee, and he's at points having to pull Umino back, or he's trying to save Umino, and that
stuff was cool, man.
Yeah, that in there, but yeah, I mean, Umino, he stepped up big here, and this is what I was talking about earlier, the whole Sonata thing. Like, Ospreay made a star here. Like, this, he helped elevate Umino big time, but Umino, he brought it, man. This is his greatest match ever. Like, after this match, I'm like, all right, I'm bought in. I'm sold on Umino that he could be a top guy. If he can go out here, and yes, I know it was against Will Ospreay, but I think he carried his load as well. He showed, you mentioned the fighting spirit, the facial expressions, the heat, like everything, the emotions, the moves. Like, this was like a perfect match for him.
If you're listening to this show, right, there's certain, I know there's people that listen to the show that, like, it's kind of funny. There's a lot of people who, obviously, a lot of people that listen to the show also watch New Japan, but there's a lot of people that, like, kind of just come to us and listen to us, and like, maybe they're lapsed fans, or they just want to parachute in for the good stuff, and they wait for us to watch it and tell them what's good and stuff like that. If you're in that camp and you haven't seen this match, I'm telling you, you need to go out of your way and see this match. It's really, really phenomenal. Like, this is like peak New Japan. There were many times when I was watching it and I was thinking, like, yeah, this is not far off from Shingo and Ospreay. This is not far off from Okada, Omega, shit like that. Like, this is really top notch. And like, I know that some people, like, for instance, we got that comment earlier about, Sonata, but let me just say, like, Sonata has never in his entire life had a match as good as Shota Umino had in this match. That's where we're at right now.
And he
That's
probably
why
never
shouldn't
will.
be champion. Huh?
And he probably never will.
He will never, bro. He'll never have a match on this level. It's not happening. Like, this was outstanding.
Yeah, like a star was born here in this match. The crowd was getting behind Umino. Like after this, I'm like, yeah, Umino, he can be the man. It felt like a young Tanahashi when he was like kind of coming up, and the fans weren't totally like bought into him yet, and he kept having like these great performances, and then like it just kind of clicked, and it's like, yes, Tanahashi's the man. That's what it kind of felt like here.
Yeah. One thing we didn't mention, and we probably should mention, the reception that Will Ospreay got.
Oh my gosh. Out of this world. Like,
he's never had a reaction in New Japan like that before. I mean, he's very popular. He gets good reactions, but like when he was in the ring and his music's playing and the whole crowd's like,
Ospreay.
That was the moment where I was like, damn, I don't want this guy to go. Like, and I'm not, bro, like, yeah, I like Will Ospreay, but I'm not like I'm not a diehard Will Ospreay's not my guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I recognize that I think right now Will Ospreay's the best wrestler wrestling today, period. And I think he probably should win Wrestler of the Year across the board. When you look at the landscape of wrestling, I think he should be. But I've kind of always been okay with the idea that he's probably going to leave, because I mean, it's not like we've been talking about it on this show for a while now. Like, it's not a secret. And if it's best for his career for him to move on, and they're not going to push him as the top guy, then what's left for him anyways? It might as well move on. But in that moment, when he was getting those Ospreys, it reminded me of like a little bit. It's not the same, but a little bit of like what Terry Funk was like in All Japan in the 80s. And I'm like, damn, I can't remember. I don't think Kenny ever got reactions like this. Like, that was something special.
Yeah, it's just a wave of like love and appreciation and energy, and it shows you how over Will is, what a star he is. That's the magnitude of that reaction. The whole Japanese audience that's singing his theme song and being behind him. And I'm like, dude, like, these are the reactions of somebody who should be your world champion.
Yeah.
Like Sonata has not gotten a reaction anywhere in the stratosphere of what Ospreay got. And yes, I know that Sonata does have some fans and he's gotten some reaction, but compare this, like, he has never and will never get a reaction.
And he will never.
that Will Ospreay got here when Elevated started, and then the Ospreay, like, it was nuts.
So we should probably move on. So ultimately, Will Ospreay was able to hit the Storm Driver 93. Umino kicks out. He hits the Hidden Blade, hits him with the Stormbreaker, picks up the 1, 2, 3. Big show of support. Both guys are exhausted. They pay, Will Ospreay pays tribute to Umino, bows to him. They show love and respect. And, we move on from there. So then it seems like Will's going to stand up and, maybe cut a promo. Suddenly, Jon Moxley gets in the ring. And they're like in a standoff, and you're like, oh, like the crowd's like, oh, and you're like, this is going to be the Wrestle Kingdom match. And then out of nowhere, David Finlay runs in, decks both guys, gets the drop on them, blah, 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 booms, beats both of them up. He's got Gato with him. And then he cuts a promo about how he doesn't respect these belts. He doesn't respect both of these guys, blah, blah, blah. And he says, the US UK titles don't mean anything to him because, in the UK, they say he's, American. And in America, they say he's Irish. And so he's going to show basically what these belts mean to him. And he takes a sledgehammer and he just bashes the belts and just fucking destroys them.
It wasn't any sledgehammer. He found the Fiend mallet.
Yeah.
That thing was huge.
Yeah, he fucked those belts up, and so the belts are gone, and he had the last laugh, and that's how we close the show. And that's pretty much it. That's the end. So I know we got a lot of questions here, a lot of thoughts about this, but it's very clear that we're and it's been confirmed now, but it's very clear we're leading to a triple threat match at the Tokyo Dome between these three gentlemen for whatever title will be.
Yeah. So a question here, Rambo and Slam Pig says, are you surprised that they are running the three-way of Finlay, Mox, and Ospreay at Wrestle Kingdom instead of Ospreay in a one-on-one match? If it really is his last Wrestle Kingdom as a NJPW contracted talent, does this make it more likely Finlay wins there to get a home talent, the rub?
Possibly. I kind of, okay, a couple things. Number one, I think that it is a terrible decision to have it be a three-way if it is in fact the final contracted match of Will Ospreay's run in New Japan. The idea that this is the match, and I'm sure it will be good because all three guys are good, but like that on paper sucks. Like, I think it's really bad booking, honestly. I'm not a fan of it, and I don't want to see it really realistically. Like, I'd rather see Jon Moxley and Will Ospreay. I kind of feel like this is a politically motivated move. And I do somewhat blame New Japan, but I kind of feel like I can't help but think that Tony Khan's hand is in here in some way. Because I don't know that they want Jon Moxley taking a loss at the Tokyo Dome. You know what I mean?
Right.
But he wants to compete.
Right. And the last time they wrestled, Moxley beat him in that scurry finish at a Windy City Riot.
You mean Ospreay? Or did Jon Moxley win? I can't recall.
Yeah, Moxley beat Ospreay. It was like a screwy finish where the whole storyline where Ospreay kept getting screwed by referees. And so, yeah, Moxley got that screwy finish over him there.
I also have a suspicion that, yes, it is possible that, the logical booking decision should be the leader of the Bullet Club, David Finlay, ousts, Will Ospreay from the company. He gets the claim that he ousted Jay White and Ospreay. He's the new champion, yada, yada. But I feel like he might be there to be the pin eater.
That's initially what I thought when he first came out. I'm like, this kind of screams, we can't beat Moxley and we don't want to beat Will. So
that's what I think.
We're gonna throw old Finlay in here to do a job.
That's kind of what I think, and I know some people think that's crazy and everything, but like, I don't know. That's what it feels like, especially like, and then hypothetically, we've seen Jon Moxley be a New Japan champion in AEW in the past, and we've seen that Will has a willingness to travel. I don't think it's that far gone of a conclusion to think that they could easily belt one of those two guys up and they could be contracted at AEW and still come back. And I'm not advocating for that because we experienced that in the past and it wasn't great. And I didn't love the outcome of when, Kenny was, US champion, but I'm not putting it past them to do that.
Yeah. And I think to people to remember, like, Will's contract is up in February. And usually there are like big new beginning shows that happen end of January and beginning of February. So if you want Will's last big match to put somebody over and give the belt to them, like, there's still time to do that. So there is a plausible reasoning for Will to win this match still. And
see, I didn't realize that. I thought he was done in January.
No, February.
That kind of reminds me of Nakamura was the same way. But remember, like, Nakamura, they just kind of like, he was supposed to have a title match against Kenny Omega, and then they just cut his contract short and he left.
Yeah.
And the match never happened.
So I mean, we'll see what happens. But yeah, as of now, February of 2024 is when Will's contract is up.
Yeah, but the idea that this is the final Tokyo Dome match we're getting feels... That's terrible. That's terrible. It's not good.
Booking malpractice. Like, how are you not going to put Will Ospreay in a singles match at Tokyo Dome?
I loved, though, that the poster had Will on one side, and then it looks like it's Jon Moxley and David Finlay as a tag team. And I was like, okay, they're doing a handicap match. This man got too powerful. They need to find a way to get the belt off of him.
Combination of the clubs.
Yeah, the Bullet Club and the BCC. All same shit.
Rambones also says, do you think it was a mistake to not pull the trigger on Shota Umino beating Ospreay? I know he got over in defeat, but we are still waiting for a big signature win from another of the next generation talent. Is this a sign of the booking still being too conservative?
My knee-jerk reaction was yes. That's what I thought at first. Like, yeah, that is the case. But, I've had some time to reflect, and one thing I've kind of thought is these guys aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And it's okay if they develop over time. And what I mean by that is, like, if they're not ready to be champion, like, we might think they are, right? But maybe they're not. Maybe they've needed some seasoning. Maybe they need the audience to get more invested in them, and they need to have some failures in kayfabe before they're ready to take the step up and be the top guys in the company. That's okay, because they are pretty young and they are going to be here for a while. And, it's okay if they're not winning the world titles or the US title in their first or second shot, because, for instance, you look at like Kazuchika, or I'm sorry, you look at, that's actually different. That's the exception. That's the one guy where like he won it and he's off to the races. That would be your argument to do it. But you look at like Nakamura. Nakamura was the super rookie, and he was winning the world title like right out the gate, and he was not ready for it, and the audience was not ready to accept him, and it actually hurt him in the long run and kind of stagnated him. And one of the reasons he never did, eventually he became a big star, but he was always kind of in the shadow of Tanahashi, because Tanahashi took a tougher road to get to the pinnacle as opposed to Nakamura. And by the time Nakamura went on excursion and came back and reinvented himself, I don't know if you guys realize, like, he never did win the world title again after that. He kind of had to be relegated to being the second place guy because he got too much too soon. And that can really be a detriment to a star. You know what I mean? Am I saying that, if Tsuji was world champion right now, or if Umino had won the US title, that things wouldn't be, that wouldn't be cool? It could be cool, but I think it's okay for them to not have one and for them to have a path to getting there down the line.
Yeah, we mentioned this before that, Gaylord loves booking tragedies, and he's gotten people over in that way. So, yeah, there was a part of me that wanted to see Umino, finally beat Will, especially after this match, and have this big moment. But I do think there is something like you're saying to kind of getting these more invested with the fans, giving them some big losses for them to eventually overcome and fight some adversity, and so that the crowd would really take to them. Like, I feel like after this match, I feel like Umino's crowd reaction is probably going to be even better than it already is, and I feel like he really got over here. So could he have won? Sure, but I think in a long run, him losing here might be better for him.
Now, I will say this, and maybe my thoughts on this have changed a little bit since you mentioned that Will's actually done in February. I wasn't aware of that. My feeling was that his final match in the company was January 4th, and who knows, maybe it will be. But I do think that it should be a young guy beating Will Ospreay for the title and getting that rub. I don't necessarily have a preference over who it should be. I am partial to Tsuji, but I would be okay with it being Umino, especially after this match. But I I don't love the idea that after this long, lengthy, important, run, that he would lose it in a triple threat match to, John Moxley or David Finlay. Like that's, I don't know, that kind of sucks.
Yeah,
and it feels like that would be a real waste of an opportunity.
definitely. Yeah. Let's see, Dragon Master Adams, it's not really a question, but New Japan has missed many big moments this year that it kind of worries me about where they're heading with this rebuilding phase of the promotion. Yota and Shota should have won their title matches, and it became clear in Shota's case just minutes later.
I don't totally agree, but I see what you're saying. The thought that he should have definitely won, because otherwise we wind up with, Moxley and the triple threat with David Finlay. So I understand why you feel that way.
Yeah, I get that. But I think in the long run, I think that this might end up being better for Umino. And I'm on their team. I do feel like the young guys do need to start getting some wins, because you don't want them to be seen as like job guys or losers. But I do think after a match like this and a loss, that Umino got over in the loss.
Yeah, like when this show first started, we used to have a saying, trusting Gato, Gato's never steered us wrong, that sort of thing. And like, you don't hear us saying shit like that. So I'm right there with you. Like, I'm not 100% confident that they're going to handle all these guys perfectly. And I mean, there's a lot of guys that they got to handle, beyond, I mean, you got the No-Gay Dojo guys, you got your Suji, Yumura,
Uemura, Narita.
Shota, Umino, Narita, but then you also got like the Western guys. You got Gabe Kidd, you got Alex Coughlin, you got Drill Maloney just came in. Like there's a lot of young talent that they sort of got to figure their, Kevin Knight, there's a lot of young talent that they kind of got to figure out how they're going to fit into the mold and be in this company. Mm-hmm. And they haven't exactly handled it stellarly up to this point. There've definitely been some promises that have, they've shown some promise this past year, and things have been looking up, which is a positive sign. But I'm not sitting here thinking like, okay, I know for a fact that Gato is going to work all this out and all these guys are going to be made men, because we don't know,
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what old Gato does with these guys. Next question here, Let's Commission 7252. Is Ospreay the guy who made the U.S. belt special and made it mean something the same way Nakamura was for the IC title? Not saying that the IC belt wasn't special when it was held by Tanahashi, Naito, Ibushi, and more, but when people think of it, the first person that they think of is Nakamura.
Well, yeah. I think that the IC title is synonymous with Nakamura. At this point, it's kind of interesting because, like, when the belt first came into existence, it was Kenny Omega's belt, and he was like the really he had a very impactful, defining title reign, that first reign, and then the title kind of dipped in quality after he dropped it. And there've been some good champions since then. But at this point in time, there is no denying that the greatest U.S. champion / I guess UK champion in the lineage of that title's history is Will Ospreay. And his accomplishments and his match quality while he's been defending the title, they trump anything that Kenny did with the belt. They trump anything that John Moxley did with the belt. Like, he is, I don't know if he's seen by everybody as the defining guy, but he's definitely the best champion the belt's ever had.
Yeah, I think Kenny and Will are the two names that I will think of when I think about the IWGP U.S. title. I mean, it's kind of hard not to think about Kenny being the first champion and kind of kicking the belt off for a great reign. But then, like you mentioned, like Will was able to, get the belt, and then he had all these incredible matches over the last couple of years, whether he was challenging or defending the title. So I think, yeah, Will's definitely going to be, I think, remembered as one of the best U.S. champions and be one of the names people think of when they talk about that title.
Now, here's something I did not like. So they fucking destroyed the belts. And I get it. Like, that's the heat and everything. And, we're going to get to the announcements, but there's apparently going to be a new title. We don't know what that title is going to be. It's not going to be a US or UK title, we think. But they destroyed the actual physical belts. And, like, that kind of sucks. And like, it would be one thing if it was like WWF in the 80s, like when Mr. Perfect and the Genius destroyed the Winged Eagle. Like, it was okay because you knew that WWF was going to replace that belt with another, Winged Eagle, because they could pony up the money to do that. New Japan doesn't do that shit. Like, they pay for one belt, and that belt is it. Like, that's the belt, and it doesn't matter how damaged it gets or what the fuck happens to it. Like, they're not going, if it gets broken, like, bro, when the IC title, when Naito broke it, they didn't pay for a new IC title. Tanahashi paid for a new fucking IC title, and it was far
it's a replica.
It was a replica, and you could tell it was a replica when the double gold was held. And he would hold, and like Naito would hold like the V4 IWGP title, and it's like plated and like incredible looking and has all this detail. And then he'd hold the IC belt, and it's like, why is it that color? Why is it so thin? Like, because it's not the same quality, because New Japan's not going to replace it. And like, if these belts got destroyed, it'd be cool if I thought like they would replace the US title, even just to kind of have in a showcase, like behind glass, like with all the trophies that they keep in it or whatever. But like, they're not going to do that. Like, that's it. The red belt is fucking dead. Like, it got destroyed. And they don't even sell replicas of it. So like,
I think they do.
There are replica makers making bootlegs, but they don't sell one.
I thought Tokon started. Maybe I missed all that.
Maybe, well, I'm wrong a lot, so I could be wrong. I think they just sell the IWGP belts.
Gotcha. But yeah, that kind of stinks. But we'll see what they come up with the new title. So Let's Commission 7252 also says the story of Ospreay this year has been excellent, making a title mean something and making it more relevant than it's been since the pandemic. Facing obstacles as the U.S. champion while avenging his defeats from the likes of Omega, Okada, Zack Sabre Jr., Shingo, and Jericho. Facing young talent in Umino, Gabe Kidd, Okan, Leon Slater, Oku, and Ricky Knight Jr. With him being a candidate as Wrestler of the Year, what is the one negative aspect from this year-long story? I would have to say him being out of the world title picture since his last shot for the world title was last year's Wrestle Kingdom.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing, him not being in the title picture. Let's see. Next question here from Lazy Binger. Is there anything more sure in wrestling today than an Ospreay marquee match?
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, you see Ospreay in the main event, you know what you're going to get. He also asks, how is it not a booking malpractice if Ospreay indeed doesn't have a straight up 1v1 match at Wrestle Kingdom?
Oh, it is. It's booking malpractice.
Yeah, a very, very bad call.
It's bad. It's a bad call.
He also says, is it conspiratorial to think that they would book that only to ensure Ospreay doesn't end up stealing the show again?
I don't think that has anything to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, Ospreay's been in 3-ways, 4-ways, and still has incredible matchups. So I don't think that's necessarily what they're trying to do.
I do think it's politically charged and motivated, though. I have that feeling.
Yeah. MJSPR says, when all is said and done, who will have had the more meaningful NJPW run, Kenny or Will?
That's a very tough call. I feel like Kenny, just for more so for like historical impact reasons and influence, but that's a tough call.
Yeah, that is a very, I mean, I think you could argue either guy and make cases for either guy. But I think Kenny kind of set the stage for Will. So
yeah, but I think like the Alpha Omega matches, the Okada matches, the stuff he did in the G1, like I think that Kenny really brought New Japan to a golden age and a forefront. especially for Western audiences. That, like, even though there's probably an argument that Will has had a better catalog of matches, I don't think he means as much historically as Kenny Omega did in his time.
Next question here from Matt315. Despite Ospreay's comments, do you think they're bringing back the IC title? If not, what do we replace the US/UK title with? Was there even a point? And Amelia Obedelia on Twitter says, where do we go with this US UK scene? And Ospreay mocks Finlay, or are we bringing back the IC belt?
So, they could hypothetically bring the Intercontinental title back. It's been alluded to. A lot of people have talked about that for a long time, and it seemed to be teased. And I could only see, if they did do that, I could only see them doing that one of two ways. They basically start a new lineage, saying that it's a new Intercontinental title.
The new.
Like a spiritual successor to the original, but it doesn't have the same lineage. It's a new version of it, which isn't unheard of. I mean, the IWGP had two versions. The first one, started in 83, and then the second one had the lineage start in 87, which didn't include Hulk Hogan. The other thing they could do is they could do a retcon. I don't think they're going to do this. If it was me and I wanted to reintroduce that title, I would just basically pull the IC title out of the world title entirely and say that the world title is going to retroactively continue the lineage of the IWGP title. So that kind of fixes that problem. And then you just basically restart the IC title using the same lineage it had before. But I got to tell you, Jeremy, I don't think they're bringing back an Intercontinental title.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And based off what we heard today from Tsukubayashi, so it was a press conference, and he said that the IWGP US/UK title will be replaced by a new championship that the promotion is creating. Regarding the IWGP US belt, we will establish a new championship. It is true that the fans were confused as to whether it was IWGP US or UK, so we have created a new championship. We will announce the details later.
Yeah, and we have a lot of questions about this. I don't know if you want to go through those or how you want.
Yeah, we can run through them real quick. So Wukong 901, what are your best guesses for the name of the new title? IC's off the table, apparently. Red people say All Atlantic. I'd love Universal because that would be rips.
I'm not sure where he heard that IC was off the table. I haven't heard that.
I think maybe he's just looking at the wording of Tsukubayashi and saying that they're creating a new title. I think Will said that in his backstage promo too, that it wouldn't be IC title also.
I think what he said, I heard his backstage comments, and he was saying that it should be the IC, but if it's not, then it should be like a new world title or something like that.
Yeah. Rambone says, signs point to the imminent return of the Intercontinental title. Should the new title continue the previous lineage or start fresh? What is your favorite title match for the IC title? Who was the greatest IC champion during its first run?
Oh, that's a lot of questions. Yeah, I mean, I guess to answer that, I think my favorite IC title match, and I don't know, I'm just guessing off the top of my head, probably Nakamura Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, there's that one. I would also go Nakamura AJ Wrestle Kingdom. Wasn't that for IC title?
Oh yeah, that was. You're right. Yeah.
And I would say probably greatest IC champion would probably be Nakamura.
It's Nakamura with Naito being like number 2.
Yeah. As far as what the new title should do, we kind of talked about that. What it should do. I don't know what they should name it if they're not going to call it IC. The last question here, Dark Soldier, with the U.S. title now dead, like Goto's hopes and dreams of being a main eventer, what is your critical reception of the title? I personally feel the belt really came to be a pretty prestigious title with the people attached to it, and even positions on the card. Sure, there were ups and downs and lull periods, but I'm sad to see it go. What say you?
I am a little disappointed because aesthetically, it wasn't my favorite belt necessarily. I never loved the look and design of the title, but because of who held it and various points in the company's history, it was a pretty important title. So the fact that they just fucking trashed it kind of sucks, but whatever. Jeremy, I've got the sneaking suspicion that this belt, and I don't know what it's going to be titled, but I think it's going to revolve around their plans to potentially market themselves more into like Eastern and Southeast Asia and Oceania.
Yeah, and you have the strong titles to be the quote unquote, U.S. branded titles. So I think the strong titles can facilitate that need, and then you create something that's a little bit more globally based and can really be pulled into that stuff that they're going to be doing in Asia next year.
Well, like for instance, from like a boxing perspective, there's the OPBF, which is like the Oriental Pacific Boxing Federation. And usually, like if you're a boxer in Japan, you've got like the Japanese titles, and then the next step up would be like the OPBF. And that's like where you fight all throughout like Thailand and China and the Philippines and blah, blah, blah. It kind of encapsulates all those regions. And then, eventually you jump up to the world stage. So I'm not saying it should be called an Oriental title, but I wouldn't be surprised if they market it some way to that region of the world, kind of like how the U.S. title was originally envisioned to be part of their expansion into the U.S. It might be a wise idea for them to have it be region specific to like Eastern, Southeast Asia, Oceania. I don't know. I don't know what you would call that, but yeah.
Yeah. Then question here from Matt315. What's the current best feud heading into Wrestle Kingdom 18?
Oh, that's a tough question because even though the card so far looks pretty good, I don't know that I love many of the feuds. Probably the best feud would be Okada and Danielson, and that's kind of by default because they're one of the only matches that actually have a quote unquote feud going on.
Yeah. So we did get some of the matches announced official. So
one thing I did want to say before we move on, I think they'd be wise to have the strap of the belt still be white.
Yeah, and which there has been a lot of teases of a white strap. Even Gideon Gray on Twitter and commentary during Real Quest is like, do you remember that white title? Whatever happened to that white title? So
it would be smart for them, even if it's not the Intercontinental title, for it to be white. It would harken back to that, to that prestige and what that was, and people will attach themselves better to it if that's the case. I'm sure Belts by Dan's probably working on something.
Yeah. So we do have some matches officially announced for Wrestle Kingdom 18, Thursday, January 4th, 2024, 2:30 a.m. Eastern start time on NJPW World. So we know that the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Sonata will defend against the G1 winner Tetsuya Naito, Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada 2, Will Ospreay versus Jon Moxley versus Dave Finlay in a three-way for the new championship. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion Hiromu Takahashi will defend against El Desperado, and the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, the Bullet Club War Dogs team of Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney, will defend against Catch 22, TJP, and Francisco Akira.
You know what? Speaking of feuds, the junior title actually has a pretty good build.
Yeah, there's a really good story there. Yeah, Catch 22 being 0-2 now against the War Dogs. Can they finally beat them? I think it's going to lead to a cool moment at the Dome for Catch 22. Def Triangle 720 says, with Wrestle Kingdom 18 shaping up, how do you feel about Shingo versus Tama again, potentially at the Dome?
Slightly disappointed. I'm sure it'll be good. I like Tama, but I want Shingo to have unless Tama wants to put on his big boy pants and strike with him and go to war. I want to see Shingo have I want to see him have the kind of match he had with Jeff Cobb a couple of years in the Dome.
Yeah,
a couple of years ago.
He also says, do you guys think if Gabe Kidd was in Finley's position at Wrestle Kingdom, the reception wouldn't have been as bad by fans?
No. I mean there's a lot of variables there. if you just transplanted Gabe Kidd today as the leader of Bullet Club, I don't know that. I think for people that are very invested into New Japan, like the hardcores, they love Gabe Kidd, but he's not over right now. He's got a lot of upside. Maybe if he had been the guy that took over and had a chance to be pushed like Finley and now we're here, maybe it'd be a different story, but no.
Yeah, I think traditionally people just don't really like three-ways anyway, and the idea of an Ospreay Moxley match is people want that. People forgot that it happened at Windy City Riot and had the screwy finish, so I think people want another match in Japan. So I think no matter who the third guy was, I think people would have been upset.
This coming week on Friday, November 10th, New Japan Lonestar Shootout, 8 p.m. Eastern. It is airing on Fight TV as a pay-per-view, and we have the full card here. So the pre-show will be a strong Survivor match with Barrett Brown taking on Matt Vandegrift. As well on the pre-show, Fred Rosser will take on Tom Lawler. Wow.
Yeah, one of the best feuds of this brand, the Finding feud, and these guys
on the pre-show. That's fucking weird. And on the main card, we've got Atlantis, Mascara Dorada, and Tiger Mask taking on Hechicero, Rocky Romero, and Ultimo Guerrero. Toru Yano versus Joey Janela. The Gorillas of Destiny team of Tamatonga and Tangaloa teaming with the Intergalactic Jet Setters to take on the Bullet Club team of Coughlin, Chase Owens, Clark Connors, and Gabe Kidd. NJPW Strong Openweight Tag Team titles will be on the line as the Gorillas of Destiny, El Phantasmo, and Hikuleo defend their titles against the West Coast Wrecking Crew, Jarrell Nelson, and Royce Isaacs. TJP will be taking on Mystico in one-on-one action. The NJPW Strong Openweight title will be defended as Eddie Kingston defends against Satoshi Kojima. Bullet Club team of David Finlay and Kenta take on the Blackpool Combat Club's John Moxley and Wheeler Yuta. The NJPW World Television title will be on the line as Zack Sabre Jr. defends against Mike Bailey. And in the semi-main event, the IWGP Women's title will be on the line as Mayu Iwatani defends against Stephanie Vaquer. And then your main event, the Never Openweight title is on the line as Shingo Takagi defends against Trent Beretta.
Yeah, so this should be a pretty good card. A lot of title matches. We'll probably even get some angles that build into Wrestle Kingdom. So yeah, it should be a fun show.
Yeah, I got a message from I guess I joked about going to the show a few weeks ago. I don't know, but Floyd messaged me today and he's like, "Are you going to Lone Star Shootout?" And I was like, "Whoa, wait a second. Did I miss something? Do I need to go to Lone Star Shootout?" And then I looked at the card and I was like, "I'm not going to this. Driving to Texas or flying to Texas to watch it. I'll watch this on pay-per-view. It's okay." But yeah, it looks like a pretty good show. I don't know if there's anything. Honestly, I think this is probably going to surprise people. But keeping it a buck, I think the Mayu versus Stephanie Vaquer match is the match I'm most looking forward to on the whole card.
Yeah, that match is going to be great. I think Shingo and Trent's actually going to be a really fun match.
That will be good. I also think Zack Sabre Jr. and Mike Bailey will probably be great.
Yeah.
So, any final predictions or anything like that for the show?
I think Shingo's going to retain. I expect Mayu to retain. I think Zach will retain. Eddie
I don't know. I don't
will
see any title changes coming.
Yeah, I think maybe West Coast Wrecking Crew could beat Phantasmo and Hikuleo.
I would welcome that. I would like that a lot because those guys should have already been champions a long time ago. But awesome. Well, let's move on to the news. So before facing Sonata at Wrestle Kingdom, Tetsuya Naito will undergo surgery to improve the superior oblique muscle paralysis in his right eye, causing double vision. This has plagued him since 2019, so he's going to be out of the World Tag League Tour. NJPW made a post on their site about contact with wrestlers outside events. NJPW emphasizes the importance of respecting the personal space and privacy of their wrestlers. They discourage fans from waiting for wrestlers outside of designated fan events, including entrances and exits from venues. Such behavior around venues and hotels is noted to disrupt personal time and regular business for other guests and staff. The post warns against overtly aggressive actions or stalking, stating that such behavior may involve local law enforcement. Fans are kindly asked to refrain from waiting at various locations, taking photos without consent, approaching wrestlers outside of official events, bringing gifts or fan mail directly, and gathering in large numbers around the venues. So, when I first saw this, my knee-jerk reaction was like, what the fuck? Why are they freaking out? Fans can't just go up to a wrestler and interact with them. But then I thought I better look into this. And then I started seeing somebody did something bad. I don't know who it was. It was some fan, some creepy ass fan. And then I thought you know what, Jeremy, most listeners to this show, they're cool. They're like us. But not all wrestling fans are like us.
No.
There's a lot of fucking weird wrestling fans.
There are people who will find wrestlers' flight schedules and wait for them at the airport. They'll find their home address and mail them stuff. There are some people who take it too far.
I do think that the wording of this, so the rumor, and it's not substantiated, but the rumor and the assumption is that somebody did something fucking weird when it comes to Julia, which kind of makes sense because I don't remember New Japan ever, putting a post like this out there with such strong language. I do feel like maybe they should have, I don't know what they should have done, but it when I first read this, not knowing that an incident had taken place, I kind of felt like, damn, I understand that you definitely want to respect the personal, privacy of wrestlers, but I've had a ton of positive interactions with, wrestlers from New Japan in and out of official quote unquote environments. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I would say, something happened and they're probably trying to establish boundaries with the fan base, which is fine. But it's probably one of those things where if you're not a fucking weirdo doing weird shit, most wrestlers will be cool. And if they don't, they'll tell you to fuck off. Like the time Will Ospreay told me to fuck off. and you know what I did? I did. I felt really bad about it. But yeah. But most of the time, if you're cool, the wrestlers will be cool.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of wrestler interactions, like you mentioned, that we've had over the years. And yeah, if you're cool, they're cool. But yeah, I'm guessing, and this feels I don't think this is probably a Japanese fan issue, because I feel like they kind of have a more kind of a code of conduct and kind of understanding, and there's more meet and greets. I feel like it's probably, like you mentioned, probably happened at a US show.
That's what it seemed like. Yeah. So, but that's gonna do it for the news. So we got some questions, and we're gonna get out of here.
Yeah, so Reddit user Stolen Tombstone says, what are your thoughts on Uemura's return from excursion, and how would you compare it against the rest of his class?
I've only seen him in the one match here, so I don't really have a frame of reference to to talk about how it's gone. I don't know, and it's only been one tour anyways.
Yeah, I think it's been fine. I think it's a little underwhelming compared to everybody else that's come back so far. I mean, he just kind of came back and joined Just Five Guys and helped them beat Evil and stuff. But since
he's had no singles matches,
right? No singles, and he's been in tags, most of which have ended in draws, and then he just ate a loss to Tsuji in a tag match. So it's been kind of underwhelming when you consider Tsuji came back, got a world title match. Narita came back, was in the TV tournament. Umino came back, challenged Ospreay. Everybody else has come back and had something a little bit bigger. They'll say what happened between Sho and Yo before and during their match on Thursday. They didn't address it backstage, and there's no subtitles during their shows. I think he might have been referring to the whole kiss thing that we talked about last week. Yeah, I
already said everything I want to say about that shit.
It says, who leads the Empire if Ospreay leaves?
I don't know. Okan. Who knows?
Yeah, I would say either. It'd probably be a combination between Okan and Cobb.
They rarely ever do anything like that in New Japan. They probably would want to. either elevate a guy within the group as the leader or replace Ospreay and bring someone else in as the new leader.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who that would be.
I know Callum Newman's still, kind of getting seasoned, but if the timing was right, it could have been kind of cool for him to take over.
I mean, I would probably prefer Jeff Cobb, but I don't know that Jeff Cobb is he's a great talent, and I really do respect him, but I'm not sure he's a good mouthpiece, like as far as like a promo to be that guy.
Yeah. Also asked, should New Japan bring back crossover showcases with Western promotions again, like Honor Rising?
Well, like in Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, they did it. They've been doing them over in the US. I guess they could do some of that in Japan. The closest thing we got this year was the New Japan Strong Independence Day shows, which kind of felt kind of like that.
Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely welcome. Yeah, I mean, they're working with AEW/ROH, so either bring back Honor Rising, you do some kind of Forbidden Door in Japan.
We do get Fantascomania.
That's right, and it is going to be back in February, so that should be fun. He also asked, if Strong does become a weekly program once again, what should New Japan do differently?
I don't even know, bro.
Well, I thought the weekly show was good for the most part. Like, they told good stories, they built stars, they built rivalries, they had good championship matches. I think just being more consistent with, blending in guys from actual New Japan into the stories more. And I think
I hated the production. The production sucked.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there needed to be more consistency and continuity with New Japan proper. And then I thought it would have been good for them to have more like promo time. I'm not saying that it needs to be like a Western style show. Don't get me wrong, but there was just very little of any kind of segment at any point where anybody really talked in a mic and cut any promos or forwarded feuds and stuff like that. It rarely happened.
Right, yeah. Death Triangle 720 says, with World Tag League being the last stop before the Dome, which team is your pick to win?
Well, it's not, because we'll have the road to Tokyo Dome.
That's right. And
I don't even know who's in the tournament.
Right, we don't have a lineup yet, so it's kind of hard to predict. He also says, if the opportunity came and Nakajima did join New Japan, could you see him as a faction leader in New Japan? If so, who could be in his group?
Oh, you know what? That's something I guess we should talk about. So Katsuhiko Nakajima has made his appearance in All Japan Pro Wrestling. He beat Aoyagi for I think that's champion, right? Yuma Aoyagi.
Yep.
Beat him for the All Japan Triple Crown Championship, and it looks like his next challenger is Kento Miyahara, who he defeated in Noah earlier this year. There is some speculation that this is a short term or like a freelance deal, and he's just kind of there to pick up a title and drop it to Kento Miyahara, transitional sort of deal. And maybe he'll be there long term, but maybe he'll be still a free agent that could hypothetically sign with like a New Japan or elsewhere. I would love if he went there, did his business with Kento Miyahara, and then came over, because with Will leaving and other guys that might hypothetically be leaving as well, like they could really use that star power.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I know that he's kind of freelancing right now and doing the whole All Japan thing. But yeah, if he were to come over, he'd be welcome. I'm not sure who you put in his group. Maybe you can put him with Strong Style. I feel like he would kind of fit in like Suzuki and Rita and Despy.
I would just say start a new faction.
True, yeah. Let's see. Next question here from Cash and Koji 1. Who will be the face of New Japan in the next decade or so? I love Tsuji, and I thought Shota Umino looked like a star against Ospreay.
I mean, my pick has always been either Tsuji or Yumura, but I don't, or I'm sorry, not Tsuji. Has always been Umino or Yumura, but I don't know at this point. It's tough because Tsuji's up there too. It can be any of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably have to say either Tsuji or Umino, just based off of things right now. But people advance, change, evolve. But I think those are definitely going to be two of the top guys in the next decade. Young Lion 95, what was the best non-title defense match this year, and what was the worst, and why is it against Evil?
I don't even know.
What the best defense? Maybe it has to be either the Hiromu match or the Tsuji match.
It's the Tsuji match.
Yeah,
I would say probably.
Yeah,
maybe Jack Perry.
Nah.
I was just joking.
Yeah, I definitely go Tsuji. And yeah, I mean, the Evil match was the worst, and if you want to know why that match was the worst, you can listen back a few weeks ago where I gave my whole rant about why that match was so awful.
Yeah, that match sucks. I didn't watch it, but it sucks.
Rainbow and Slam Pig with Nakajima winning the Triple Crown in NJPW. I assume the likelihood of him wrestling Shingo in the near future has increased, other than the potential rematch with Tama Tonga. Who are likely matchups for Shingo heading into Dome season?
Oh, it'd be so cool if they brought in Nakajima and that's the match. I don't know. Ishii's not, he's got nothing going on. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he beat Ishii at Royal Quest.
Fuck it. Run it back.
Trying to think who else that's kind of out there. Yeah, I can't really think of Suzuki, maybe. I don't know.
I don't need to see any more Suzuki.
Yeah, I'm not sure who you throw him up against.
All right, well, that's going to do it for the questions, and it's good because I'm getting tired.
Well, yeah, we'll wrap up here. Recommended match of the week. So last week I picked the Will Ospreay versus Speedball Mike Bailey match from...
We picked.
We. From the recent Impact, what was that, Bound for Glory show?
I got to tell you, Jeremy, I made a mistake. I watched this match after I watched Ospreay and Umino. And it might have swayed my opinion, but I gotta tell you, I'd seen a lot of the outrage surrounding this match and everything. I'm not gonna sit here and say I was outraged or that I didn't like the match, but I also think the scores I was seeing on it, and this is just my personal opinion, are like very, very overhyped. Yeah. I think the match is good. But you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like a really, really high-end WrestleMania weekend showcase match from
right.
like
2018, 2017.
Like a 2016 Evolve, WrestleMania weekend match or one of those like the WWN Super Show or the WrestleCon Super Show type matches.
And this match was supposed to happen on Mania weekend, I think a couple years ago, but Ospreay or one of them got hurt or sick or something like that. And
it was this year. It was the Multiverse
that's right,
United match. And then Speedball ended up working Tanahashi. I think these guys have a much better match in them. They went out there and they did. I mean, it's a cool match. Like, that's the thing. It's cool. They did a lot of really cool shit. But for me to and this is just my personal opinion on wrestling, I think for me to say that something is like in the top end of great matches, there needs to be gravity and stakes and like veritas. There needs to be something that actually means something that matters about the match. And to me, this just reminded it kind of like, remember when people were freaking out about Ricochet and Will Ospreay and saying it was gymnastics routine? I'm not going to go that far because this wasn't that, but I kind of feel a little bit of that vibe where it was like they were just out there doing shit and it was really great shit, but I wasn't living and dying with this match and I wasn't like super invested and believing everything they did. It just kind of was like a cool showcase match. I'd probably go like 4.25. Maybe that sounds crazy. I don't know. But like Dave went 5.25. And I just can't. I don't think that this match is better than every 5-star match in the history of professional wrestling. That's fucking crazy to me. I don't even think that this is gonna like make maybe you'll disagree. I don't know, but I don't think that this should even be nominated for like excursion match of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 4.5 range on that, which is great, but it's not like the 5 and 5.25 that people are throwing at it. And yeah, I think it was a great showcase. Like, look at all the cool stuff we can do kind of match, which I like those matches and those are fine. But I think when you're trying to say that match is on the same level as Umino Ospreay, as Omega Ospreay from this year, both of them, like, no.
I think like one of the problems for me is like how hyped it was. So I had these certain expectations going into it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it is like it's a show, and like a grant, like for instance, I think you were almost 5 stars on the match they had last year at Rep Pro.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're clearly capable of better matches than this.
Yeah, and well, it's on that Impact / TNA stage, and
the live crowd was really hot for the match. They loved the match. Oh, that's another thing. Like, okay, so I'm supposed to believe that this is the greatest TNA match of all time, better than Joe Daniels and AJ Styles. Like, no, bro, it's not. It's not even in the same stratosphere as that match. Like, it's a great match, but like that's still maybe the best triple threat I've ever seen in my life. It's not as good as that.
Yeah,
Dave's tripping. But yeah, it was very good. I mean, maybe it will get nominated. I can't imagine it will. I feel like this year's Excursion Match of the Year awards, like it's gonna have to, like, most of the matches that are getting nominated are like super high end because of how exceptional the wrestling outside of New Japan has been for excursion matches.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be a very high bar. It's gonna be like the match is gonna have like some kind of average of like 4.75 or above to get on there.
Close to that.
Yeah. So I mean,
it's going to need a high consensus because I mean, there's been some great stuff out there this year, and I mean, Will's in a lot of it. And I don't think that this, to me, from what I've seen from Will this year, I didn't think that this was like one of his top end excursion matches.
Yeah, I think it was a great match, but yeah, when you look at some of the other stuff that he's done around the world this year, it's not. I don't know if this cracks the list.
The one positive thing I will say, because it sounds like I'm shitting on the match, and maybe I shouldn't be so negative. The one cool thing about this match, and in some ways it is kind of like the Will Ospreay Ricochet matches. This is a match where you have two guys doing shit that only they could do.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the things that's cool about it. Like, only Mike Bailey and Will Ospreay could have this match with each other, regardless of how much I enjoyed it. There is no one else out there that could be doing this match. So, you know, it's still worth your time to check out.
Yeah, it's very like early X Division vibes where it's like these two great athletes who can only do certain types of moves are doing it. So you get your early like AJ Styles versus like PD Williams versus Amazing Red, like those kind of guys from the early days of the TNA X Division. And so it was definitely that kind of vibe of match. Yeah, it's an awesome match, and if you love flips and moves, you'll probably be higher on it, which I love that stuff too. But I think it was like a 4.5. I could see 4.25. It was a great match, but I don't think it's a match of the year contender.
Yeah, Dave went 5.25. That's fucking crazy, bro. How? I'm gonna say we take a break on excursion matches of the week and talk about it off air.
Okay. All right. So that's going to be it for this week. Next week, we'll be back to review Lonestar Shootout. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation. Visit socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media. On X, we are at KI Strong Style. You can follow the network at Social Suplex and follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan on Facebook, facebook.com/Social Suplex, on Instagram at Social Suplex, on Reddit I am the pro black guy, Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd Johnson Jr. and Austin Sumowitz. Imp's WWE Adventure with the Implications Matthew Mayer. And there will be a new show starting this week, so subscribe and be on the lookout for that midweek this week on the network feed. And don't forget to leave us a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.